Oops, sorry. Yeah, that's right. Gosh. No, that's right. I was listening to something. Well, make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. I hope everyone's having a good one. Is it working? Are we going? But anyway, I hope that everybody's having a great day. Great day today. Whoa, let me... Okay, that's out. Okay, that's out too. That's out. Cool. Yeah, a bit late, but nevertheless. Gotta keep on persisting. Whoa. BT16067, thanks so much for the cool Corey membership. Appreciate you. Synthwave Ash, thank you so much for the the cool Corey subscription. I appreciate you too. What am I doing? Is there anything I'm forgetting to do? I think it's good. I suspect it's good. Okay, wait, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to quickly adjust audio levels really quick. I want to turn this gain down slightly, which means that I also need to turn this gain down slightly. Fuck, what was it? Oh no. Okay, hopefully that's good, but we'll see. We sure will see now, won't we? Damn, that was dumb. I probably shouldn't have modified that one. Maybe it was like right here, and then maybe this one's like right here. Maybe this is the real one. Okay, yeah, anyway. Hope everyone's having a good day. I'm having a great day. We did a little, like a little member Q&A. I'm gonna be delayed the next several Tuesdays from getting here, but I'll try to stream for an appropriate fitting amount of time after the fact. But anyway, if you're in that guest request box, make sure that you disagree with the topic. You gotta be 18 or older, you gotta believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of reason to think that God exists, like evidence, argument, whatever, etc. Hey, how's it going?
Yo, do you say that because he made you look that way?
I do,
Just
yeah.
love yourself, bro.
I do, yeah. You know, if God existed, he would be perfectly beautiful. And because God wants the beautiful, what that means is that God would create a perfectly beautiful world. But the fact that I'm ugly is evidence against God. You know, if God's all beautiful, why would he create me so ugly? Is that the sound you make after you get your fucking back blown out, right? Like you came in, you got spawn killed, and now you're you got slammed, and now that's the sound you make when you get rhetorically fucked. Make the sound again, cuck. Make the sound again, cuck. Wait, yo, make that sound again, cuck. Do the sound that you do when you lose, cuck. Say it again.
What?
That's the sound of you getting your back blown out. Say it again, cuck. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's doing it. Good boy. Good boy. All right. On to the next one. Well, make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of argument or evidence for God's existence. And with that, we'll go to the very next guest. Hey, how's it going?
What's up?
Hey, yeah, how old are you?
I'm 22.
And what religion?
Islamic.
Okay, what makes you think that God exists?
The fact that you lost to Islamic Apex.
Oh, on what point? Brutal. Fucking devastating. If you're off the app, I can't hear you. Is this your, like, attempt to run? Like, you're trying to run away, but you're unable to actually, like, run away efficiently, so you just, like, swiped out of the app? Because perhaps you have, like, 30 IQ points? Damn. You know, it was such a decisive victory that this guy can't even defend the point that I lost on, apparently. Hey, how's it going?
What's up?
Yeah, how old are you?
18.
And what religion?
Christianity.
Yep. What makes you think God exists?
I've just experienced him myself.
Okay. So if the only way to come to a belief in God is to have, like, an experience with God, then why wouldn't you just give an experience to everybody?
Because, in my opinion, I think it's because of free will. And
Wait, sorry, what year were you born? People are saying that you're not 18.
2008. 2008.
What year did you graduate?
I'm still in school. I'm about to graduate.
Okay. I don't know, gang. I think he's probably 18. Okay, yeah, sorry.
Just let me debate. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not gonna
sorry,
do
what were
anything.
you... Laura,
Huh?
do you have, like, evidence that he's 16, or are you just saying that?
That's literally. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Yeah, what makes you, sorry, so I think the point in the conversation that we were at, I was just asking you, like, why wouldn't God give a personal experience to everybody?
Because of free will.
Okay. Why? What's the connection there?
What do you mean?
I'm unclear as to why God, you know, I'm not sure what having free will has to do with getting a
Free
personal
will because
experience from God.
he doesn't want to force you to love him and force you to like be Christian.
But couldn't he give me a personal experience just that I know that, you know, Christianity is true, and then whether I decide to dedicate my life to it is up to me?
Well, no, that's not how it works.
Why not?
Because of free will. I just
Why?
said it.
Why would it take away my free
Because-
will? Like, okay, for example, like, to be consistent, you would say, like, none of the apostles had free will because they had all experienced Christ.
Mhm. Yeah. So
None of the apostles had free will?
No, they had free will.
Oh,
Yeah.
but they had experienced Christ.
Yeah, they did. So
Clearly having an
Bible,
experience
also,
with
it does
God
say in
doesn't deprive you of free will. So then God could give you an experience without depriving you of free will.
yeah, and see, like nowadays, it's really rare to experience God because of how much evil there is in the world. Like, I mean, God isn't going to want to expose himself. Like, I mean, Jesus did come, and what did we do to Jesus when he came?
Well, didn't he sacrifice himself? I think that that's
You know,
more in the
he
nature of, like, a
sacrificed himself,
suicide.
no, he sacrificed himself. But do you know what the people did?
Yeah, they,
people
like,
didn't
killed him,
know.
yeah.
Exactly. So like,
Yeah.
that's why he might not show himself.
But then he
now.
showed himself to you. So why would he show himself to you, but not to other people?
When I say he showed himself to me, I don't mean like physically. I mean like spiritually. Like 'cause
I didn't say like he physically showed himself to you. I understand that you're talking in spiritual terms. What I'm asking is why wouldn't you give a spiritual experience to everybody?
Because okay, let me explain what I think free will is. Like when he said so free will, when he gave us free will, the reason he's not like showing himself to us is because he doesn't want us to force. He doesn't want to force us to believe in him.
Did it take away your free will when he gave you a personal experience?
No.
Why would it take away my free will if he gave me a personal experience?
Well, did you ever ask for a personal experience?
Yeah.
Can I ask you that?
Yep.
You did? All right, awesome. So, in my opinion, I think that whenever you do like ask, you just maybe go to church, like just read the Bible. Here's the thing: you have to have like a consistency on being with him. Like, I mean, because you can't. God isn't just gonna show himself to you. Like, because the reason for that.
Why not?
Because
why wouldn't he? You know, if I want to see if he exists or not, why wouldn't he just show himself?
Because that is a thing, like saying basically if he were to show himself to you, automatically you're going to believe that he's real, right?
Mm-hmm, of course, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So
what's the problem with that?
What's awesome with God, though, is that he doesn't force, like, he doesn't want to force you to come to him. He just wants to.
Is it
have
possible to believe in him and not come to him?
Possible to believe and not come? What do you mean? Like, when you say
Like,
come
is
to
it
him,
possible to believe that God exists but not worship him and form a relationship with him?
Yeah, you can believe he exists, but you won't go to heaven if you didn't accept him as your savior.
Oh yeah, then God could reveal to me that he exists, and then it's my choice if I accept him or not.
Yeah, exactly. But
then why wouldn't he do that?
Because he wants to have a relationship with you. I mean,
how can I have a relationship with someone if I don't know that they exist?
By praying, and
I've already prayed and I got no response.
That's faith. That's faith right there.
Oh,
like that's the thing. Like that's.
But that's irrational.
A lot of the Bible is faith as well.
Okay,
so
but that's irrational.
Well, what's irrational?
Faith. Believing something with no evidence is irrational. Why would God want us to believe in such a way?
Free will.
Why? Why would God want us to use our free will in irrational ways?
In irrational ways?
Yeah, like why would God want me to form a belief with no evidence?
Because he wants. I mean, that's not really like something to argue about. Like, and here's the thing. Like,
it's just like a weird desire.
I mean, I can't give you a firm answer, but like, here's the thing. Like, there's a ton of things in the Bible, and a ton of things like the human mind genuinely just can't explain. Like no one could explain it. Like even Albert Einstein couldn't explain it, because the thing is, I mean, can you explain what happened? Because you probably believe in the Big Bang, right?
I do, yeah.
Can you explain to me how it could have been like infinity or like before the Big Bang? You know what I mean? Like how it's just, see how your mind just can't.
Well, I mean, I believe that the universe goes through infinite cycles of big bounces and big crunches, and that the Big Bang, that the Big Bang is just one of those.
Big Bang is
why the fuck? Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think that the universe is just that.
See, but what my point is, like, do you understand what I'm saying when the human brain can't think of things?
Sure, but why would I take that to mean that God exists? We don't know, therefore God.
Because
why would that follow?
We were going back to faith. Like, that's the thing. Like,
why not just say that you don't know if you don't know?
I did say I didn't know. I told you I can't explain that answer, because the Bible's, there's tons of things in the Bible that I can't explain. But in my opinion, I think it's just to have faith. Like why? Here's the thing. Like, there's proof that maybe, like, how God created the earth or like everything in 6 days.
I know that that's what the Bible claims.
That's what it claims. Like, but there's other things that say like it may be like one day was 1,000. Like in the Bible, it says that one day can be like 1,000 years. One day in heaven can be 1,000 years to us. So it could be like 6,000 years that it took for.
Do you understand that that's like super false, right? The Earth isn't like a couple thousand years old. It's like billions of years old. So if the Bible says that the Earth is just a couple thousand years old, well, then the Bible is false, because that's just not true.
Well, there's a ton of theories that say that one day could have been a lot more than just one day.
But what's the interesting thing here? You're just saying, like, it sounds like what you're saying is like, well, the Bible gets the age of the Earth wrong, but it also says that, time units to us are different from time units to God. So maybe, that it gets the age right. Here's
the main point. I'm just trying to explain that there's things that I can't explain.
But in the Bible, like, why would we think that it's true?
Like, I don't know. That's up to you. That's free will.
Can I ask you some questions about the Bible?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. What am I to make of all like the contradictory verses, like the verses that say that, God changed his mind, which is Exodus 32:14, and also that God can't change his mind, which is Numbers 23:19. Like how are we supposed to make sense of this?
I have my computer right here. Let me just.
Yeah.
Can you give me the exact
Yep.
verse? 'Cause
Exodus
I just wanna look at,
32:14 and then Numbers 23:19.
Exodus
Numbers 23:19 is God is not a human being that he should lie, or a mortal that he should change his mind. And 32:14 is, and the Lord changed his mind about the disaster that he planned to bring on his people.
Exodus 32:14. Okay, I want. Is it okay if I read it in
Yeah,
NIV,
go for it.
or do you want?
Yeah,
okay.
go for it.
I don't have my Bible with me right now, so I have to go on like a website or something.
That's fine.
Okay. Exodus 32:14. You said.
Yep.
14. And the Lord relented and did not bring on his people. Where does it say he changed his mind?
And Exodus 32:14. Then the Lord relented and did not bring on his people the disaster that he had threatened. When you relent from doing something, you were intending to do something, and then you no longer intend to do that thing. That's what relenting means.
Well, it wasn't because of him. It was because of people.
Yeah, and then he was intending to do one thing, and then he changed to intending to do not that thing anymore.
So, how is that God changing his mind? He changed his mind to help us. I mean,
yeah, so he changed his mind.
Yeah, I mean, well, honestly, he didn't want to change his mind. He had a plan, but the people forced him to change his mind.
Yeah, it's still a contradiction, though, right? It says God never changes his mind, but then there's an example where he changes his mind.
Well, when you say never changes his mind, do you mean all-knowing?
No, it says God is not a human that he should lie, not a human being that he should change his mind. It just says explicitly, like, God doesn't change his mind.
Mm-hmm. You don't think like that was a good thing that he changed his mind, and that's in Exodus 32?
It totally could have been, but what I think it is a contradiction.
Why do you think that?
Because at other places in the Bible, it says that God can't change his mind. You know, the idea that God changed his mind contradicts the idea that God can't change his mind. Only one of those can be true.
Okay. So in my opinion, I don't think that was God, like, because whenever it says it in that verse, what I think it might have meant is like without the people doing anything, and it was just him, like just God changing his mind out of nowhere, wanting to create a new plan. I think that's what the verse you were talking about says, but it says right here in Exodus 32:14. Then the Lord relented and did not bring on his people the disaster that he had threatened, because I think that was because of the people, and that wasn't God.
But okay, does he change his mind or no?
Free will. That brings back free will too.
Does he change his mind or no? It needs to be one or the other. He either changes his mind or he can't change his mind. It needs to be one or the other.
Now, he changed his mind, but it's not.
Okay, then you would reject Numbers 23:19 that says that he doesn't do that.
No, I'm not rejecting it. I'm saying I think you kind of misunderstood it, because it says in that verse that he doesn't change his mind, but that means he won't change his mind by himself.
No, it doesn't say like by himself he doesn't change his mind. It's just that he doesn't change his mind, period. Like that simply is not in the verse.
That's what it most likely interpreted. I mean, because of people.
What word would indicate that to you?
Sorry?
What about the verse would indicate that it's talking about that he won't change his mind unless people influence him?
Unless people influence? I never said that was a verse.
No, the verse is God is not human that he should lie, not a human being that he should change his mind. But you're saying what this verse means is that he won't change his mind unless somebody influences him. But where does it say that in the verse?
Say what in the verse? I'm sorry. I'm sure
that he won't change his mind unless somebody influences him to.
Unless somebody influences. But that's my opinion. I mean, that's an example of proof, though, because it didn't say that exact thing, but that doesn't mean that it's proving that he changes his mind.
It's like pretty clearly what it's demonstrating, right? Like Exodus 32:14, he changes his mind. Numbers 23:19, he never changes his mind. I'm not really sure what the holdup here is, but hey, well, I appreciate the conversation. I don't think this one's going anywhere. SCOTUS brought back conversion therapy for LGBTQIA+. What the fuck is wrong with you people? I don't know. Pretty wacky. Grimmy, thanks so much for the super chat. If God was real, I would happily reject him to his face if given the chance. I find we can treat individuals better without his authority. That disregards consent. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's at least not clear, like, why you ought to do it. I mean, you know, he says, well, I'll torture you. Okay. I don't know why that means that doing what you tell me is the right thing to do. Kane, thanks so much for the super chat. It's just explaining that there are things I can't explain. Brilliant stuff. Also, wasn't Jesus' sacrifice predetermined? That's a good point, I think. All right. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen sharing it with your friends. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you are 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of argument for God's existence.
Hello?
Hey, whoa, you sound way underage. How old are you?
14.
You gotta be 18 or older. Sorry, bud. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Yep, how old are you?
I'm 50.
And what religion?
I was raised as Catholic, but I have some experience in Hinduism because I lived in India and I also lived in Jerusalem, studied the Bible there.
But what do you believe right now? I'm asking. I'm not asking like what religion were you raised. What religion are you?
I agnostic.
A Gnostic?
Yeah.
Okay, so you do believe in like the demiurge and whatnot.
I believe in God, but the God that you are mentioning so far, that God I don't believe in. I believe in a different kind of God. There's a God that is beyond what you can perceive and is beyond the conception of five senses.
Okay, sure, that's totally fine. You know, I don't think that God is the sort of being that we would know via our five senses. When you say God exists, what do you mean?
Well, every bit of what you can perceive is part of God.
So, for example, I don't know, like kids starving to death is a part of God?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, what's the evidence for that?
Because there's a unity of everything being part of God. And when you have five
That's the
senses,
conclusion again. I don't know if you're aware of that, right? That's the thing I'm looking for a justification for. I don't want to hear like more lore. I want to hear evidence that what you've already told me is true. If you would like refrain from just repeating the claim you've already made,
Okay.
I'd really appreciate that. What's the evidence that there's unity in all of this and that unity is God?
Well, the evidence is that, let's say, for example, you have, hold on, because that's a good question, but can I ask you the same question to you back, which is like, how can you believe in what you are seeing, what you're hearing? Can it be just part of your imagination and you probably are somewhere else?
Are you asking like, is it possible if my senses are mistaken?
Yeah, I mean, it's also possible that you're not even here right now.
Yeah, it's possible, like to an extent, although not in like an absolute sense, right? You know, if I was completely mistaken, then I would be mistaken about any argument that attempts to establish that fact too. Which means that any attempt to establish that fact is just going to be self-defeating.
Yeah, but why do you believe then in the fact that you think that God doesn't exist then?
Oh, are you asking like, why do I believe in the fact that I think that? Are you asking why do I believe that God doesn't exist?
Basically, every evidence you can have, it could be wrong. And even in the evidence that you use to believe that God doesn't exist could be wrong too.
Sure. So let's I guess we can just like walk through this. So time always existed. And the reason why time always existed is because change always existed. And if you have change, then you have time. And if time always existed, that means that it was never created. So which part of that would be false?
Okay, so it's just as false as if...
which part? Wait, sorry. Give me a specific thing that I just said that's false.
Yeah, I will get there. It's just that...
No, it kind of sounds like we're not going to. It kind of sounds like you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like what you're about to say is, well, all those things that you just said that it sounds like you kind of didn't listen to, well, those use your sense data, but that's just not true, and you would know that if you listen to them.
Well, if let's say you try to explain a three-dimensional object from a first and
Which
one
premise of
dimension,
my argument do you reject, or were you not listening?
this is what I'm trying to get. If you are
Do you want the
seeing
premises
everything
again? What we're not
If
going
you're-
to do is allow you to like pivot away.
This is the thing. If you try to understand everything from a one-dimensional perspective and you try to understand a three-dimensional object, this is just like, it's not possible. You can just draw a square and then another square and then trace some lines and then, oh, okay, that looks like a three-dimensional, even though you are explaining it in one-dimensional paper.
That's great, bud.
So-
How do you think that responds to my argument?
Your argument makes no sense just as much
Can you
as-
repeat back to me what my argument was? Sounds like you weren't listening.
What? Okay, just go ahead and
Sure.
I think I understand.
Change always existed. If change exists, then time exists. Therefore, time always existed. If time always exists, then God doesn't create it. But if God existed, then he would be the creator of all things, which means that God doesn't exist.
Well, you translate that in whether the egg was first or the chicken. This is pretty much what you're saying.
No, not even close.
Look, time is only a fourth dimension. That's the fourth dimension. So
Okay.
if you combine all the dimensions, then you have what you can perceive with five senses. But there are other senses that you can perceive higher dimensions.
I just don't know
Beyond
how
the
that
fourth
engages
dimension.
with the argument.
Well, this is like if you look into science, where string theory, M theory, they
Okay,
all
I'm
explain.
moving on to the next one. I need people who actually, if you're going to ask me for an argument, bare minimum is that you engage with it. All right, if you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of argument or evidence for God's existence. And with that, we'll go to the very next guest. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
Doing well. How old are you?
I am 19.
Okay, what religion?
Christianity.
Okay, what makes you think that God exists?
So I'm going more like off what the other guy said, more of the faith aspect, and I think that God is out there. There's a God out there, and that there's so many religions, and I think like so you don't believe in God because like can you just give me a reason for like not believing in God?
Yeah, I look around the world and see like cancer, and that just doesn't seem like the sort of thing that an all good, all powerful God would allow.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And I've heard this argument a lot with, like, I've really heard this argument a lot. And I believe that God allows these type of things to happen to people. And yes, I know it sounds like he's not a forgiving God and that he hates us and stuff. But, I think we all have a journey in life and that we all have a purpose. And that, I think he just gives us all our own story, and I don't really know. Like, there's not too many things that us Christians can explain, and like it's the same thing with these other religions too, like a Muslim or.
Then why not be atheist? If there's
Pardon?
no explanation for it, then just be atheist.
Well,
Atheism can
atheist is-
explain this. The
an
reason why
atheist-
kids get cancer, for example, is because there are mutations that happen because of mutagens in our environment, which leads to things like cancer.
Yeah, and also I just wanted to touch on another point. Like, I saw how you were explaining like Bible verses to the guy earlier about like you were citing Exodus and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
So, have you had past experience with Christianity, and have you like gone more into the Bible or like?
Yeah, I've
like,
read the entire Bible, and I used to be a Christian, but I left it because I encountered like good arguments against it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of just like it's personal, to be honest. Like, I think we all just kind of in this world we like don't really know what to believe in because there's so much like higher powers and stuff, and I think we all just
I
need
don't see
something to
higher
believe.
powers anywhere.
Well, I mean, okay, there had to have been also like with the Big Bang and things like that, there had to have been, it can't just be an infinite cycle. Something had to
Why
create
not?
it, right? Because something had to create it. There's nothing can't come from nothing.
Okay,
Right.
but what if something always existed? Like, what if the universe itself always existed?
I mean, that doesn't really make sense though.
Why not? What about that?
Okay, that's
It's
also the same
incoherent.
argument. That's also the same argument with God. Christians say that God was always there and always will be there, right?
Okay,
So-
but the reason why I don't believe in God isn't because he's always there. It's because his properties are contradictory. So, okay, the universe always existed is in line with our evidence. God existing is out of line with our evidence.
Yes, but also we also have, I think Christianity in the Bible, we have more evidence than any other religion in the.
Like what?
Entire
Yeah,
world.
please. I'd love some of the evidence.
Well, I mean, I can't bring up certain evidence, but there's been, I've heard that there's been prophecy or there's been scrolls found. We've had more evidence of Jesus Christ being have walked the earth. There's many.
Have you like seriously looked into this?
Yes,
Okay, could you
Well,
give me like
okay.
the name of a specific piece of evidence that you find compelling?
well, no, I can't. I'm
Okay.
just being honest. I can't. But
Well, then
have
it sounds
seen-
like you haven't like seriously looked into this. That sounds like exactly the sort of thing that you'd be able to give.
Yes, I know. To be honest, I just scrolled along your TikTok, and I requested to join, and I just wanted to talk to you about this because, I believe because I've seen, like, yes, on TikTok, not everything is true, but it's kind of a reoccurring thing that I see, and it helps me to believe more because there's a lot of things that I think are stupid, and I don't really. It's kind of a one-time thing, and. But I keep seeing the same pattern over and over again about saying how Christianity has so much evidence and things like that. So,
But
I mean,
you can't seem to like repeat any of it. Like, okay, do you have anything like serious or substantive? Otherwise, I might move to somebody who actually has evidence.
okay, I know you want evidence, but you could search it up now if you wanted to. Really,
I've already heard the evidence. I've gone through it. It's all really bad.
So then why are you
The
asking for
scrolls, like
evidence?
for example, you might want to say something like the Dead Sea Scrolls. But that's not evidence. That's just an old version of the Old Testament. And what that demonstrates is that the Old Testament that we have today is well preserved from the Old Testament that used to exist, but it doesn't in any way demonstrate that the claims of the Old Testament are true. And in some cases,
Yes.
they're just demonstrably false.
Yes,
It makes
I
certain
mean-
claims about nature, like for example, that rabbits chew cud, and that's just demonstrably false. They don't do that. It makes certain claims about math. It claims that pi has a value of 3, and it's just false. Like that's just not true.
Yes, and I believe that there are some things in the Bible that aren't false. Like it's already been proven that the Book of Enoch is completely false. That is not real. Because like I said, that's where faith comes in, and you have to. That's why people choose a religion is because they want to place their faith in it. And I know you're looking for evidence, and obviously, I'm not going to bring you. I haven't been able to bring you enough evidence, but
just like any evidence, right?
yeah, yes. Yes, I've read the Bible, and I can't bring up certain evidence because I don't have my Bible next to me.
Jackson, I appreciate you coming on up. I'm really looking to debate with people who are a bit more prepared. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran as we go to the very next guest.
Bet.
Hey, how's it going?
Yo, what's up?
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm 19, bro.
Yep, and what religion?
I don't really like organized religion, but I follow Jesus.
Okay, what makes you think that God exists?
The most recent thing that I've found is the crucifixion.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think I
world.
agree. I agree that Jesus was crucified. I think that there's historical evidence for that. I don't know why I would think that Jesus is God is like the important claim.
What I was gonna say though is I think there's evidence that he rose from the dead.
Yeah, what's the evidence for that? That sounds super interesting.
Let me pull up. I literally have a whole paper for it, bro. Let me pull it
Yeah,
up. Let me find it.
please. If you're off the app, I
Okay.
won't be able to hear you. Yeah, go for it. What's the evidence?
No, you're good, bro. I'm trying to make sure it's I can't remember if I put it in Excel or Google Docs. Give me 1 second.
Trying to figure out if it's if you left it in ChatGPT or in Grok.
Yeah, dude, that was fucking hilarious. Here we go. So the you know the whole thing of like bifurcation, right?
Yeah, like when things like split in two.
Yeah. So we can sit here and like historically go back and accept that people in power like to separate things into two to have control over the mass, right?
I don't know what that. I'm familiar with bifurcation, like a mathematical context, not in like a.
Yeah, but the easiest example is Republican and Democrat, right? That's the easiest example, right? Like we both know both parties are controlled. We both know, you know, it's way above politics, right? But they split it into two to have control over the mass, right? That's the easiest way to. That's the easiest example I got, right?
It's a little bit conspiratorial. I mean, I don't.
I mean, you can look at all of our presidents, and they've all been controlled, and there's all someone behind. Like they're all sold out to Israel. If we're gonna be honest, right?
Well, I mean, I'd probably to an extent agree with that, but I mean, like setting that aside, first of all, Israel hasn't existed throughout the entire history of the United States. You know,
I know that. I was using it as
1948.
I know. I was using
but
it like.
If I'm not mistaken, at that time, the Democrats and the Republicans had already solidified.
Yeah, but you can also admit the politics from 1776 is not the same as today.
Politics. Oh yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, like whenever. Okay,
But
not
so
even.
okay, I think like
but
what's
whenever
actually
parties were
responsible for
created-
things like
hey, bro.
Republicans and Democrats existing is the fact that there's incentives to create like two parties. That in the system that we have, it's just going to tend towards two parties, which is why for the majority of our history, there's just been two parties, and it's always trended towards two parties, even prior to the Democrats and the Republicans.
Okay, but I'm saying whenever the parties were first created, that is not the same politics as today.
I
Nowhere
agree.
near the same
Yeah, I
politics.
totally
Okay,
agree.
all right, all
Okay,
right.
sure. But bifurcation indicates that God exists. How does it do that?
Okay, look, so this is like the general gist of my argument, right? So I believe that first off, I want to get this clear too, is that I don't think that the Bible is perfect. I think everybody sits here and likes to say that the Bible is perfect, but I think if the actual truth was out there, the people in power would not let it get that far. I don't
Wait,
think
I'm just looking.
anybody
What's the evidence that the Bible is true?
Dude, I said that I don't think the Bible is fully true.
Okay.
I'm saying
How do
I
we
think it's
determine if
tampered with.
part of it is true or not true? And if it's tampered
Bro,
with,
can
then
you
how can we
just
believe
let
any
me
of it at
talk?
all?
Like you keep cutting me
No,
off every 3
absolutely not.
seconds.
Provide evidence for your position. This isn't a platform for you to yap. This is
You
a
haven't
platform for
even
you to
let
give
me
evidence.
finish my theory.
Because I don't want to hear your theory. I want to hear your evidence.
Bro, I gotta get my whole idea across first. You're not even
No,
letting me do that.
the evidence that Jesus resurrected. Go for it. I don't
Are
want
you gonna
I don't
let
want
me
to hear
talk?
your theory. I
So-
want to hear the evidence for the resurrection.
Oh my God, you're not even gonna let me talk, bro. Here we
If
go.
you're just
So-
yapping, yeah, you're correct. I will cut
Holy
you
shit!
off. Yeah.
Shut up! Holy
Whoa,
shit,
calm
bro!
down.
Let me talk,
No need to get upset.
bro. You
Just
won't
give
let
the
me talk.
evidence.
How are we supposed to have an argument if you cut me off every 2
Well,
seconds?
what you can do is stay on topic and give the evidence for the thing that
Well,
you're
I
being
was
asked
on topic
for.
and you won't even let
I
me
don't
get
want to
my
hear
idea
your
across.
like speculative theories. What I'm more interested in is just the evidence that Jesus
Okay,
resurrected.
so the Romans. Here we go. Since you won't even let me talk, the Romans, right? The Romans. So we can both agree the Romans kept very neat records, very, very good record, like way above for their time, right? So in the most important case that has ever gone down, the most famous case that has ever gone down at this time, they don't have a record for Jesus' persecution, right?
So the evidence
They
for
don't-
Jesus resurrecting is that the Romans who kept very neat records didn't have a record. If
Yeah,
the
that's
Romans
one-
keep
that's
very
one-
neat
that's
records,
one.
then that would seem to be really strong evidence against this.
But they persecuted him. That's a fact. It's you.
I
you
agree.
admitted-
I agree that they
you admitted
persecuted
he got
him.
crucified. So why
I
would they
totally
get rid
agree
of
that
the
he got
case?
crucified. I don't agree with you that they kept records of like every single person that they crucified, or that we have all of the
most
records from
famous
Roman times.
persecution at the time.
I don't know if it was the most famous persecution at the time.
So what was more famous than the Jesus
There was like
crucifixion?
tons and tons of people that got crucified. I'm not
Well,
sure
if
if you're
there's
aware of
tons and
that.
tons,
You
dude,
know,
name
Jesus
one.
is I'm not going to be able to name like a Roman who got crucified.
But it was more famous. It was more famous.
We can look up like famous people who crucified
you
in
gotta
Rome
look
if you
it up,
want.
even though you know the Jesus one, and you don't.
Do you
know
understand
the
that
one.
Jesus is a lot more popular today than he was back then?
Oh, popular. Here we go.
Do you understand that? Like, does that Does that like maybe make sense to you?
So look, and then
Okay,
whenever
yeah.
he
Yeah,
also,
just dodge
whenever
that
he,
one, get steamrolled on that point. Where do you want to pivot to next?
that once again, you're not even letting me finish my stuff. But
Okay.
that was one of four. That was one of four
Yep,
main
sure.
things
So your
I was
first
gonna
point
get at.
collapsed instantly. What's your second
It
point?
really didn't. But
It
you're just not
absolutely did.
accepting
Yep.
that it was the most.
Well, I mean,
most
I guess
important
what I
case
could
at the
do, I could
time.
just be like
And they
a
kept
debate
records all the
scumbag, and I
time,
could
and
be
they were
like,
just
yeah,
conveniently
what's the
missing.
evidence that this just didn't happen, as opposed to
So there
some
was also
conspiracy.
there was female eyewitness accounts.
Ooh, straight to another pivot. Nice, W.
You just asked for my other opinion, or you asked for my
Okay.
other stance, and
Well,
I'm
you
giving it
just
to you.
didn't listen to the question. That's fine.
You asked for
We can
my
move
other
past that blunder. So,
bro. Oh
the
my
reason
God.
why the evidence of the women being the first one to find the tomb isn't good evidence is specifically because the women needed to find the tomb. That was part of the ritual for like Jewish burial practices.
So what do you think happened
If
to
they
Jesus'
didn't do
body?
that, then it wouldn't make sense.
So okay, so if you're gonna say that, then what happened to Jesus' body? Where do you think it went?
We have no idea. It could have got thrown into like a big body pit.
The Romans didn't even say that, though. You're not even believing the Romans.
You don't
now?
think that the Romans threw crucified bodies into pits?
No, because they said it was in the tomb,
Okay.
and they had guards
Oh,
watching
sorry.
the tomb.
And what's the source for that?
And bro, the Romans themselves.
I thought there was no Roman record of the persecution. Now you're contradicting yourself.
There was no. Yes, but there's actually eyewitness accounts of the Romans literally saying that you admit that he got crucified, right?
Mhm,
You
but
admit
it has
that.
nothing to do with the Bible. So what's the eyewitness account that says that they
the
were storing his
the
body in a
Romans
tomb?
literally said that there were guards right there.
Yeah, what's the source for
guarding the
that?
tomb, and it says that they fell asleep.
Yeah, what's the
and
source for
and
that?
somehow, and the Romans literally said that
Says who?
the apostles hid the bodies.
Says
That's
who?
what they said. All right, here we go.
According to what source?
I'll pull it up for you, bro.
Please. It's going to be the Bible, by the way. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Well, okay, hold on. So I have to ask this too, right? So if they came out and said, right, that they threw the body into the mass grave, why would they even let the apostles run off with the whole theory?
Were you unable to find your evidence?
Yeah, the record being thrown out does not help it.
Okay.
The,
so there's no evidence for that.
But I mean, still, that doesn't necessarily negate my theory, because the whole idea that they destroyed all the evidence and they tampered with the Bible to lead people away from Jesus still can't be refuted yet.
Why? Why would they do that?
Because they knew that they were in power, and they knew that what they were doing was wrong, and Jesus came out here and was criticizing them and telling them, and it threatened their power.
Typically what people do when somebody threatens power is they make like a big display of it. They don't destroy records of the persecution. They make like a huge show of persecuting the person to try to disincentivize people who do the same thing. Why? Why not? I mean, they beat the fuck out of him. Why wouldn't they want that to get to light? From the Roman perspective, the Roman value structure where what's valued is power and strength, why wouldn't they want it to get to light that they beat the fuck out of Jesus?
You're not even arguing the same thing that I'm arguing.
You're proposing some sort of like conspiracy theory where they, suppress truth just for the love of suppressing truth. But in fact, it seems like there'd be no reason for them to do that. That just sounds like gibberish.
But it combated their power. That's the motive.
Okay, but wait, sorry. Why would releasing the truth combat their power?
Because it would expose that what they were doing was evil and wicked.
You don't understand Roman society. Romans valued power. They valued strength. They valued being able to do this sort of thing against people.
Yeah, they valued
who you
corruption.
dislike.
They valued selfish power. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Then you're contradicting yourself. So then why would it be under a system where what you value is power and strength? Why would it be an indict against them that they valued power and strength?
Because they were using their power for evil things.
Not to them, they weren't. To the Romans, they thought that what they were doing was perfectly acceptable.
Okay,
they
but that's what
crucified
I'm
like
saying.
a fuck ton of people, right? Like they crucified tons and tons of people.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is Jesus was criticizing them and saying what they're doing was wrong and immoral. And if they let the truth get out to the people and the people were like, yeah, you know what they're doing is evil and wrong, that threatens their power. That threatens their control.
No,
what do you not understand?
This is still you just like failing to track the thing at play, which is that to the average Roman, they valued displays like this. They thought that displays like this were perfectly fine.
Okay, so
they
let me
had
ask you
no
this.
issue with crucifixions.
Okay, so let me ask you this, right? So I have a cult, right? I have, for example, I have a cult.
Granted,
right?
I grant that.
And so the people, right, that I have indoctrinated and brainwashed and everything, right? I think that, you know what I mean? I can manipulate them and, sleep with all their wives and all this type of stuff, right? And to them, that's true, that's right, that's acceptable, that's moral, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then somebody comes in and is like, hey, this is a cult. What you're doing is evil. You're not allowed to be, just brainwashing all these people to have sex with them, right? That's wrong, right?
Yeah.
So why are you going to sit here and say, but
and
to the person in that cult, it's right.
I'm not sure if you're aware of this fact, but for tons and tons of cults around the world, people come to those cults and they come to the cult members and they say, you're in a cult, you're in a cult. And you know what? That doesn't change anything.
So you're agreeing with me that your logic doesn't make sense. You're
the opposite.
Pointing out
that actually when you try to argue with somebody under a value structure that they themselves do not hold, that it's going to be utterly unpersuasive, what's your response?
Dude, you just admitted to
his head is like
with
spinning. He can't even track the conversation. Holy shit!
You just agreed to me.
You're concussed. Like you actually, I might have given you brain damage from this like walloping. I think.
Wait, so
if you think that I just agreed with you, then I actually think that you might have like some mental issues.
This is what we're pivoting to now.
No. You're claiming like delusional things.
Let's run it back because you're getting sidetracked. Let's run it back.
You think?
Right? Yes, we're running.
You must really be confused because I've been standing in the same place this entire time.
You haven't, bro, because I told you you're literally
when your head is
saying
spinning,
that
it might seem like I'm moving, but actually your head is spinning.
Yo, can I get 1 minute uninterrupted?
It depends.
So my original point was that you can't sit here and say that, oh, it's not moral or it's not right to the people that are already in evil, right? The people that were in the Romans, you're saying, oh, to the average Roman, it's all about power, right? Well,
there's no reason to hide it from the Roman public.
Oh my God,
they don't care. The Roman public doesn't care. Crucifixions were normal for the Roman public.
You're literally not even on the same topic as me, and I've been trying to retrace back and go back. I can
summarize back to you your argument and explain to you how this is a direct response. Your argument is that the evidence for Jesus is that they suppressed the persecution of him.
Because you haven't even let me get
if Jesus's message had gotten out to these people, all these people would have been convinced by it. But I'm telling you that it's quite the opposite, that Jesus's message and the persecution of Jesus would not have been persuasive to the Roman people, insofar as the Roman people didn't care about crucifixions. They didn't care about persecutions. It was a normal part of Roman life.
Jesus was bringing it to them, dog. Like
why would they need to suppress it?
To him. But of course. What do you mean suppress? Because the people of like Jerusalem and the people that like were living in modern day Palestine, the people living there weren't the Romans, and they weren't subscribing to the Romans, and Romans wanted the control over everybody.
They already had control over everybody.
What?
They already had control over everybody.
Not religiously.
Well, they didn't care what religion these people followed. Also,
religion
they did persecute the people who started like piping up. That's why they persecuted the Christians.
Yes, they did persecute the Christians.
Yeah.
They did. They literally persecuted
Yes.
Jesus. You know why? Because it's the truth. And if they let the
Ooh.
truth get out, it would sway over the Roman people.
When they persecuted all the other people who claimed to be the Messiah, is it because their truth was also the truth? Like, for example, there's a guy that's reported by Josephus, and he's just called the Egyptian, and he claimed to be the Messiah. You know, did the Romans persecute him because he said the truth too, that he was the Messiah?
I mean, they probably persecuted a lot of people that threatened any type of power. The only difference is that they couldn't show Jesus's body. They couldn't point out which mass grave he threw it into. If they wanted, to,
What's
if they
the
wanted
evidence
to,
that they were
like,
even asked
negate
to?
if they wanted to negate the apostles, they would have gone over there and been like, "It's right here."
What's the evidence that the apostles were making those sorts of claims?
The apostles made the claims that he resurrected, and
What's the evidence for that?
Romans. My bad. I switched up the Romans and the apostles. The Romans accused the apostles of stealing the body.
Yeah, what's the evidence for that?
However, my bad. Look, hold on. Right here, whenever I was talking about the apostles, all this stuff, why would the apostles go
Zero
and
evidence.
accept?
Cool.
Why would the apostles go and accept a worse torturous death for a lie that they would
Zero
know
evidence
was a
for
lie?
that too.
What do you mean zero evidence for that?
Yeah, what's the evidence that happened?
The apostles got tortured? You
yeah,
don't think
what's
that's
the evidence?
Bro.
The only place where it claims this, if I'm not mistaken, is the Book of Acts, which is not evidence.
Tacitus?
Yeah. So where does Tacitus claim? I guess, like, what sort of claim does Tacitus make?
In his Annals, Tacitus described how Emperor Nero, to stop rumors that he be burned, targeting Christians whom he called mischievous superstition, he wrote that he covered in wild beast skins and torn by dogs, nailed to crosses.
The apostles. You're looking for the apostles, not just Christians. I agree Christians were persecuted. I want the evidence that the apostles were persecuted, that they were martyred.
Okay. Oh, then yeah. Sorry, I misunderstood your whole argument. I thought you were asking for. My bad. You're right. That comes from the Bible. You're right. You're right. But what makes you think that these eyewitness accounts aren't valid?
We have no reason to think that they're eyewitness accounts. They're all anonymous.
What do you mean they're all anonymous? You have Paul, you have Peter, you have Andrew, you have James,
You think Paul is an eyewitness?
Paul?
You think Paul is an eyewitness?
No, my bad.
Okay,
You're right.
who are the eyewitness accounts?
It was the why can't we sit here and accept the people who witnessed the crucifixion?
Like who?
Why would we sit here and why would we sit here and not accept the Romans who literally like persecuted them?
Like who?
They literally
Name them.
Bro. I don't know the Romans standing by Jesus's cross.
Then what claims are you referring to?
All right, bro, you got me right here. I'll give you this one. Why? But if they were going to sit here and not accept, if they were going to sit here and say that they threw him into a mass grave, why would they not go and point out that body? Why would they not show it? Because
why would
the apostles claim that he rose from the dead. So why would you not sit here and show them?
We have no evidence that they claimed that he rose from the dead.
That's the whole thing of the resurrection.
What's the evidence that they made that claim?
He went to heaven.
What's the evidence that they made that claim?
The apostles?
Yeah.
You're talking about the 12 disciples.
Yes. What's the evidence that they claimed the resurrection?
It's literally the entire gospel. It's
the evidence that the gospel was written by the apostles?
I literally don't understand what you're saying. The apostle,
it's written anonymously.
It is very evident. It is very evident that the apostles think he rose from the dead. That's what
the evidence
believe.
Is that it's very evident. That's helpful.
Dude, it's in the whole Bible. Like, what? I don't know what you're acting like. That is a.
I just want the evidence
thing.
that the apostles wrote the New Testament.
Why? So then why? I don't even understand what you're getting at. That is a like known thing that the apostles believed that he rose from the dead.
Okay.
So why would you?
Sounds like you have no evidence. So I ask you, like, what's the evidence that they believe that? You say the New Testament. I ask, what's the evidence that the apostles wrote the New Testament? You say, what? It's just well accepted. Everyone knows that. That's not evidence. Give real evidence.
So you don't even think that the apostles believed that he rose from the dead?
I have no reason to think that they did.
So then why did they? So then why even? I don't even understand why even persecute Jesus. Like why even persecute anybody?
Because he was causing problems. He was stirring up trouble. He had a cult following. Lots of people who claimed to be the Messiah had cult followings, and they were killed for their troubles. You know, for example,
So
like
then-
the
so then how
Egyptian
did the
person that I
apostles
mentioned
die then?
earlier.
So then how do you think the apostles died?
We
then?
don't know. There's no
Okay.
records of it historically.
All right. Fair enough, bro. I mean, I can't argue with someone who doesn't want to accept any type of historical accounts.
That's not true. I accept all sorts of historical accounts. I just don't have any reason to think that the apostles wrote the New Testament.
Okay. Well, then I don't think we'll ever be able to come to agree because I believe that the apostles were in control of what was said. But I mean, if you don't want to accept that, then we can't ever have this argument because that's where we disagree. I don't think we can ever come to terms on this because I believe that the apostles were the ones who were not the ones who were in charge of writing what was on paper, but I believe the apostles' message is what's in the Bible. And if you don't believe that the apostles' message is what's in the Bible, then we can't agree.
On the basis of what evidence do you hold that belief, or do you just want it to be true?
because they were eyewitness accounts.
We have no reason to think that. What's the evidence for that?
Why? Okay, so then why would we accept any old document whenever we could just be like, oh, well, it could have been anybody else. They just wrote their name on it. You know what I mean? Why do we accept any historical
The disciples
documents?
didn't even write their names on it. That's the problem. The apostles don't say, hey, it's me, John, here's my testimony. You know, you can go through the book of John. You won't find him claiming to, be the author at a single point. In fact, he refers to himself in the third person if he wrote it.
All right, bro. I'll do more. I'll look more into that because that's you're right. That would everything past what I said wouldn't matter if that was true. So I'll go back and I'll look at it and I'll get back to you, bro. But
Okay.
to me, I think the apostles were the people who were getting their message on, or I don't think that they're the ones who wrote it, but I think their message got on paper. But if their message didn't get on paper, then I'll agree with you. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Okay. Fair enough, bro.
You got anything else?
Nah, it's all good. It's all good.
Sure.
I'll see you, dog.
Hey, well, thanks for coming up. Appreciate you. One sec. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Right. Hey, make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older, and make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of argument or evidence for God's existence. Let's read some supers. What do we got? God is real. Oh, well, that's weird. CJR, thanks for the super chat. He's more interested in wanting to farm you like a fucking rat. Now give him his evidence, give him content, arguing a point that doesn't even matter. God is real, so is the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus. Cool. Okay. Well, make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. Okay, that will go to the very next guest. Hey, how's it going?
Yo, what's up?
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm 19.
And what religion?
I'm gonna be Catholic. I'm Roman Catholic.
Okay, what makes you think that God exists?
I'm just gonna be taking like some like logical positive accounts. I'm just gonna be taking to be the case that if it is the case that a proposition is unverifiable, then it's just gonna be a pseudo proposition. When the proposition that God does not exist is gonna be unverifiable, therefore it's gonna be a pseudo proposition. If it is the case that God does not exist is gonna be unverifiable, then God being a pseudo proposition, then God existence is gonna be necessary. It is the case that God existence, non-existence is going to be unverifiable, therefore God is necessary. What premise is that?
Sure. So what stops the parity argument of just saying, like, you know, if a proposition is unverifiable, then it's a pseudo proposition. The proposition that God exists is unverifiable, therefore it's a pseudo proposition. If the proposition that God exists is a pseudo proposition, then his non-existence is necessary. Like, what's going to stop that?
Yeah, what's going to stop that is going to be what your justification for the premises, or you have not given any.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, I just ask, like,
and also like,
I mean, presumably it would just be the same as whatever your justification is, right? I mean, you accept the premises. Would you accept the premise that God's existing is unverifiable?
God existing is unverifiable?
Yeah, like the proposition God exists is unverifiable.
No, I don't accept that.
Okay, sure. So what would be your evidence that the proposition that God does not exist is unverifiable?
Well, you just shift the burden.
Whoa, sorry. I just want to know what your evidence for your initial proposition is. You came in here, gave an argument. You made the specific claim that the proposition that God exists is unverifiable. Did you or did you not make that claim?
Yeah.
What's your justification for that claim?
Yeah, so the justification is going to be this, right? If it is possible that God exists, all right? If it's possible that God exists, then it's going to be possible that God could be deceiving you to know that like it is not the case that he does not exist.
Wait, sorry, what did you just say? I think I missed that. So it's possible that God exists.
Yeah. If it is possible that God exists, then it's just going to be possible that God is deceiving you to know that that he doesn't exist, right? It is possible that God exists. Then it could be the case that God is deceiving you for that you don't know that he does not exist.
So do you think that that's what you were asked to give an argument for? What do you think I just asked you to give an argument for?
You asked me to give the argument that basically God does not exist. It's going to be unverifiable.
Okay, sure. And what was your claim?
Do you understand that like the conclusion?
So actually, I think maybe what would be helpful is like actually typing this out to try to make a bit more sense of this. So the conclusion that you're arguing for is that the proposition
you know what a proposition
God does not exist, right? Is unverifiable. So premise 1 was it's possible that God exists, and then premise 2 is what? Like, if it's possible that God exists, then it's possible that he's deceiving you.
No, that was not my premise. The first premise.
That wasn't your premise? If I played the replay back, that's not what you said? No, let's actually check the replay right now to see whether or not this is what you said.
What if that's the first premise? Go ahead.
That it was God exists, then... Okay, sure.
Possible that God exists, then it could be the case that God is deceiving.
Yeah, like the proposition God exists is unverifiable.
No, I don't accept that.
Okay, sure. So what would be your evidence that the proposition that God does not exist is unverifiable?
Well, you just shift the burden.
Whoa, sorry. I just want to know what your evidence for your initial proposition is. You came in here, gave an argument. You made the specific claim that the proposition that God exists is unverifiable. Did you or did you not make that claim?
Yeah.
What's your justification for that claim?
Yeah, so the justification is going to be this, right? If it is possible that God exists, right? if it's possible that God exists, then it's going to be possible that God could be deceiving you to know that like it is not the case that He does not exist.
Wait, sorry, what was
possible-
the what did you just
Deceiving
you
you
that
so
it's
you
not the
showed,
case
You sure the second
that
premise
it's
said
not the case
that hold on.
that he doesn't exist?
Listen to the second premise. It's not that He is deceiving you, that He could be deceiving you.
Yeah. And then
That's
so
not the
it's
argument.
possible
So you
that if God
concede-
exists, then
Wait,
it's
hold on.
possible
Can you concede that was not the argument?
that he's
Wait, can
that he
you
could be
concede that-
deceiving you. Yeah,
Wait,
sure.
can you
That
con-
you didn't say
Okay,
that he
so-
is deceiving you, that he
hold on.
could be deceiving
Okay,
you.
so
That
gonna
it's
be
not the
against
case
zero,
that he doesn't
so
exist.
let's put
Sure,
like
yeah,
10
I
credits right
misheard
now.
that part of it. So that's premise
So
1, and then premise 2 is
that's
that it's
blunder
possible
number
that
one.
God
So
exists.
can
Is that
can you stop
correct?
me,
Wait, so then to be clear, is this
No,
the correct
so-
form of the argument?
If it is possible that God exists, then it's possible that He could be deceiving you.
Is this what you just
I
said?
don't know, that it's not the case that He doesn't exist.
Is this
No.
the argument that
Can
you put
remove-
forward?
No, I'm telling you, can you remove that it's not the case that He
Okay,
doesn't
so
exist?
let me
Justification
I
for
guess
the
I'll just write
premises.
I'm
telling
gonna
you
just
to-
listen back to the replay and we'll just write down your exact
You
wording.
have that given any
Sure. Well, I mean, I just ask like
And also, are you?
I mean, presumably it would just be the same as whatever your justification is, right? I mean, you accept the premises. Would you accept the premise that the
It could be the case that God is deceiving you for that you don't know that He does not exist.
So, do you think that that's what you were asked to give an argument for? What do you think I just asked for evidence that the proposition that God does not exist
you're
is
shifting-
unverifiable?
Well, you just shift the burden.
Whoa, sorry. I just want to know what your evidence for your initial proposition is. You came in here, gave an
so
argument.
my initial
You made the
was that-
specific
so
claim that the
you-
proposition that God exists is unverifiable. Did you or did you not make that claim?
Yeah. I
What's
did.
your justification for that claim?
Yeah, so the justification will be this, right? If it is possible that God exists, all right? If it's possible that God exists, then it's going to be possible that God could be deceiving you to know that like it is not the case that He does not exist.
Wait, sorry, what did you just say? I think I missed that. So it's possible that God exists.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's possible that He could be deceiving you, possible that God is deceiving you.
Whoa, sorry. We're just gonna go ahead and mute you until the replay is done.
I just
want to know what your evidence for your initial proposition is. You came in here, gave an argument. You made the specific claim that the proposition that God exists is unverifiable. Did you or did you not make that claim?
Yeah.
What's your justification for that claim?
Yeah, so the justification will be this, right? If it is possible that God exists, all right? If it's possible that God exists, then it's going to be possible that God could be deceiving you to know that like it is not the case that He does not exist.
Wait, sorry, what did you just say? I think I missed that. So it's possible that God exists.
Yeah, you just added, right? So can you
Yeah, it's because we're like literally listening along, so we can get the premises down exactly.
That God is deceiving you to know that He does not exist.
Okay, and to be clear, is this the argument that premise 1, if it's possible that God exists, then it's possible that He could be deceiving you to know that it's not the case that He doesn't exist? Premise 2, it's possible that God exists, therefore the proposition that God does not exist is unverifiable?
No, therefore it's possible. Wait, you asking me the question?
Is this? Were these the premises that you put forward, or were these not the premises that you put forward?
The conclusion was. Can I finish?
Well, so the conclusion that you were asked to give the argument for is that God does not exist is unverifiable.
You know what?
Was that or was that not the conclusion that you were asked to give an argument for?
Are you just gonna keep interrupting?
What I'm going to ask you for is to be very clear in your answer. Is that or is that not the conclusion that I asked you to give an argument for?
Equivalent. Do you understand what I was saying?
Yes or no?
I said yes, but
okay, sure. So then you did give an argument for this conclusion. Is that correct?
By semantical implication, yeah.
Sure. Okay. So what's the and this is your argument for the conclusion?
That's the premise, but can you like add?
Is this the argument? Sorry, these are actually two premises. I know that counting is a bit hard for Christians. They think that 1 is 3. But is this the argument for the conclusion that the proposition that God does not exist is unverifiable? Is that correct?
I already answered that question. I said yes, right?
Oh, sure. Okay. So what inference rule does this follow?
So it's gonna be like if P then Q, right?
If P then Q.
Yeah, P therefore Q.
P therefore Q. Okay, so do you understand that the proposition that God does not exist is unverifiable actually doesn't appear in any of these?
Yeah, but the
and also, or actually, sure, yeah, we can start with that. Do you, in order for this to be accurate, what you would need to have is that if it's possible that God exists, then God does not exist is unverifiable. Is that the accurate premise? Do you think that the premise, we'll do, if it's possible, and then we'll just copy and paste the rest of this.
Do you know what a semantic implication is?
Is the same premise as if it's
No, it's not the same
possible
premise. It's
that
a
God
what?
exists,
It's a semantic
then
implication. They're not the same premise. It's a semantic implication.
God does not exist is unverifiable. Wait, okay, so are
Do you
these
know
or
what
are
a
these not the
semantical
same
implication is?
premise?
Do you know what a semantic implication
Well,
is?
sorry, are these the same premise or are they not?
If it's possible that God exists, then it's possible He could be deceiving you to know that it's not the case that He doesn't exist. It's the same premise as if it's possible that God exists, then God does not exist is unverifiable. No, they're gonna be semantically. Do you know what
Okay, sure. Then you would acknowledge that actually this doesn't follow the inference rule. Is that
no,
correct?
Can I just know? I'm
Wait,
gonna
sorry,
tell
does
you
this
why.
follow the inference rule that you claimed it followed, or were
Yes.
you
Now,
lying?
no, I'm gonna answer, right?
Sure. So this does follow.
It does. Can you stop interrupting me?
Okay, sure. So then, for
So let's
example,
see
we'll be
here.
able to come down here. We'll be able to copy this in for P.
No, that's how semantic
P
implication
implies
works.
Q. Whoa, you didn't give semantic implication. You gave
I
modus
just
ponens.
no.
So I think you
Oh
might
my
be a
goodness,
bit turned
guys,
around.
the
Maybe
OT
I've
thinks
slammed
that
you so
semantic
hard that you have a
implication
concussion,
is
which is why it
of
seems
inference.
like
Oh my
you're
gosh, click
struggling
that.
a little
He
bit to
thinks
track
that
the conversation.
wait, you think
I
that
asked you, what
semantic
inference rule
implication
does
is the
this
rule of
follow?
inference? Dumb
You
fuck.
said if P, then
Do
Q,
you think
P,
that
therefore
semantic
Q.
implication
But then
is
that's
gonna be a
just
rule of
not
inference,
true.
you dumb fuck?
Because if P, then Q, P, therefore Q, in
Do you
order for it
think
to
that
yield this
semantic
conclusion
implication? Oh
specifically,
my god, you
what
guys are so
if
dumb.
P, then Q would need to
Do
have
you
with the
take it to be
Q
the
or with
case that
the,
semantic
yeah, with the Q would need to be is the
Hello?
highlighted section right
This
here
guy
that
is
God
really
does not
dodging right
exist is
now.
unverifiable. But
Okay,
you
do
just
you think
conceded
that
that that's not the argument. So
no,
can
that's
we
not
just
what
get
has
a
been
quick
conceded.
concession that
No,
actually
that's not
this
what's
is a
been
blunder
conceded,
on
by the
your
way.
part and that
You
it
are
doesn't
a
follow
low
modus
tier. You
ponens?
are so confused.
So you do think that the
Alright, so I'm
argument
gonna
that's
give you an
highlighted right
example.
now
Hey,
follows modus ponens?
Ian, do you want me
Is
to
that
give you an example?
correct? You think that
Do
this
you want
follows modus ponens?
hello, Ian, do you want me to give you an
Yes?
example?
Is it a yes? Is it a no? Are you physically capable of
Yes, but now
answering?
can you stop interrupting?
Does this follow modus ponens? Yes or no?
That wasn't my conclusion that you're changing
Oh,
it.
that is. Does this follow modus ponens? Yes or no? Go ahead.
Yes, given my conclusion.
You think the highlighted section follows modus ponens?
It
You
is
think what's
possible that God
highlighted right now is a valid argument, let alone follows modus ponens? Do you
Look,
understand? Do you
given
understand that the consequent here is not the conclusion?
can you play back
Is the
way I
consequent? Is
said-
the highlighted consequent the
Yo,
conclusion?
is this
Do
guy
you?
gonna keep
Is it?
interrupting me? What the hell is wrong with this guy?
Answer the
Are you
question.
done?
Yes or no?
Okay, so when I answer, can I elaborate?
Is
Or you
the
gonna
is the
tell me?
highlighted section, is this consequent section the same as the conclusion?
Is the consequence section the same? When you say same semantically,
Yeah.
or semantically, yes. You know what
Okay,
semantic
sure. What's
is?
the argument that semantically it's possible that he could be deceiving you to know that it's not the case that he doesn't exist? What's the argument for that being identical to this? I'll write down that as the conclusion that
That is semantically identical. Stop changing
yeah,
my word.
that this is semantically identical to, and then we'll get that. Yeah, sure. What's going to be the argument that the proposition that God does not exist is unverifiable is semantically identical to it's possible that he could be deceiving you to know that it's not the case that he doesn't exist? What's the argument for that?
Yeah. So if it is the case that God exists is unverifiable, then it's gonna be the case. Sorry. If it is the case that let me start that. If it is the case that God does not exist is unverifiable is true, then it is gonna be the case that where's the other premise? Can you bring it down? So
No.
then it's gonna be the case that so you're not gonna bring it down.
Then it's going to be the case. Track your own arguments better.
Oh, it's fine. So I'll do it for you. So then it's gonna be the case that God is that it is possible that God is deceiving you is sure.
That it's possible that what?
That God, right, could be deceiving you, right? To know that He does not exist is sure. Right.
Yep.
If the conditional premise one is true,
If the conditional
yeah, if the conditional premise one is true,
premise 1 is true,
right? Then they are semantically equivalent.
yep.
The conditional premise one is true, then they are semantically equivalent.
Additional premise 1 is true. Therefore, sure. So what inference rule does this follow?
What? It's gonna be if P then Q,
Okay,
Right.
sure. If P then Q.
All right. P. Sorry, not P. Sorry, my bad. If P then Q. Sorry.
Oh fuck! Wait, sorry. Did you blunder just now?
I misspoke. not
Oh
blunder.
sure. Okay, cool. Sure. I mean,
That's
because you
that's
want to
what I'm
count
saying.
every single concession. We're gonna
No, no,
count
no, no.
every
You
single
conceded.
concession.
No, I
You know,
didn't concede.
I'm
I
glad to
corrected
meet you
myself.
with the
This guy's
same
an
faith
idiot.
that you've met me in this conversation.
You did not
Sure.
correct
So
myself.
how
He's
would you
an
like to
idiot.
reconcile your
So it's
blunder?
gonna
Which
be
premise
if.
do you want to amend?
That's not a blunder. Can you
Sure. So
justify
which
that?
premise are we changing?
So it's gonna be if
It's
Q.
not a blunder, but you did
It's gonna be if,
misspeak.
bro. Misspoking is not blunders. Yeah, you agree?
Misspoking.
Yeah, that's a word, by the way.
Misspoking. Okay.
Yeah, misspeaking is not gonna be the case.
You didn't
right?
say misspeaking. You said misspoking.
Yeah, so can you address?
And sorry,
your
wait. When
control?
you said misspoking, was that a
Is this guy
blunder?
actually gonna go over like me not being able to like
Misspoking?
like the word? Like, is that real? So can we go back?
Because
to the
we're.
substance?
I mean, you just want to count all the blunders. Let's count all the
No, you
blunders.
actually make a blunder. That's what your
Wait,
fault,
but you
not
do think
mine.
misspoking is a
You
word?
stated. Huh?
Can you find me a dictionary that claims that misspoking is a word?
What do you take? What do you take a word to be?
Well, I don't know, just like a combination of
I
letters
just
with
take a
like
word
some
to
meaning
be.
behind
Yeah,
it.
I'm gonna help
You
you
said
out.
that it's a
I just
word.
take a word to be.
Did you make
I
up the word just
yeah, so I'm
now?
gonna help you out. So I take word to be anything that is gonna signify right some type of meaning. I think that what I
So if
stated
I
is just
said
gonna be a
bloop blop
sign
bleep blorp, that would be a word if there
that
was some
certifies
meaning
some type of
behind it.
meaning, then it's gonna be a word. Now,
So you would say like bloop blop bleep blorp is a word if there's
Is it
meaning?
gonna be the case that I've justified it? Can we move on to the substance?
Is that a yes or a no?
Hello, what you said?
Is that a yes or a no?
What was the yes or no? I didn't hear what you said.
Is gloop plop bleep blorp a word? If I had
Does it
meaning behind
signify-
it?
Yeah, the question is gonna be: does it signify anything?
Yes.
Or what does it signify?
It signifies that today it was very pleasant outside.
Okay, so if I say that, like, what was the word that you
I
said?
asked you a yes or no question. Gloop plop bleep
Yeah, well,
blorp.
yeah, it's given that it signifies something, right?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I mean,
If I say
I take that to be a bit of an
bloop blop
absurdity
is
that
a
you think
human,
gloop
then I
plop bleep
say,
blorp is a word, but okay,
you
that's
are
fine.
bloop blop,
I mean,
bloop
we
blop,
can
then
move
I'm saying
past
you're
that.
an idiot.
Sure.
Oh
So
my
so what's
God,
going to be
you
the
did that
inference
word.
rule for the argument that
That
you
was
gave?
horrible. That was horrible. That was
Oh,
horrible.
it was
You
quite
did
good
that word, bro.
actually. You think gloop glop bleep
Wait,
blorp is a word?
you just stated
Blown the fuck
you
out
just
again.
agreed
Holy
that it was a
shit.
word.
So anyway, what's
You agree
the
my
inference rule
definition,
here,
and oh my
Nabi?
gosh, you're an idiot. So it's gonna be: can you delete the P? Thank you.
It's going to be what?
Can you delete the P?
Sure. Yeah, then what?
So it's gonna be if C.
If C.
All right. Then if P then Q.
Then if P then Q.
Yeah. C. Therefore if P then Q.
Therefore what?
Therefore if P then Q.
Therefore if P then
Wait,
Q.
can you, bro, I can't even see my own argument. Can you bring it down?
Oh, sorry. Just track the argument.
Well, it was
Okay,
very
sure.
long.
So the conclusion is what?
Can I just see if the conditional premise was sure, then they are semantically equivalent. If P then Q. Oh, sorry. Go back up.
Fuck, is your mom? Are you speaking too loud? Is your mom coming into your room to like beat the fuck out of you?
No. What, can you bring
Sure.
that
So
up?
wait, what's the conclusion? Just give the
So it's gonna
conclusion.
be- Wait, can you?
He's like fucking stumbling trying to figure it out. Holy shit, dude! I feel bad. I
formalize
feel like
it,
I'm like
but-
fighting like the Make-A-Wish kid.
Bro. I could formalize it for you. Do you
Yeah,
want me to-
it's already formalized. What's the inference rule? Is the
Can you-
conclusion just premise one, or is there more to it?
Can you bring it back up?
Which one?
I said delete.
This?
Delete the conclusion.
What do you want the conclusion to be?
Delete the conclusion. I said.
Delete the. Oh, did you blunder in the conclusion? Did you
Bro,
misspoke again?
by the
Another
way-
misspoke?
Oh my god, this guy is so weird. You understand that like the argument is valid.
This
in
guy's
actual language,
a
right? I'm just trying to
fucking
help you out,
machine
but it's
that
fine.
turns
So can you bring it-
a lack of understanding into copious misspokes.
Can you delete?
Did you blunder on the conclusion?
No, I didn't blunder.
Oh, sure. So then I'll leave it up. If you said it correctly, I'll leave it up.
No, I
Sure. What do you
didn't
want
say I said
after?
it correctly. I just misspoke. Can you?
Oh,
delete
sure.
it?
So it was another misspoke.
Oh my gosh, bro. Can
Sure.
you-
Yeah.
can
What do you want the
so
conclusion
can
to
you
be?
Can you go back to premise 3?
Oh, fuck. Did you blunder on premise 3 too?
No, I didn't. I didn't
Holy
blunder.
shit.
It's gonna be that. Okay, are you good?
Yeah.
All right. it's gonna be that like if C then Q, say that like C.
His head is fucking spinning, dude. He has no idea where he is. Yeah, what's the inference rule? Come on. So you blundered the conclusion. You blundered premise 3. How do you want to reconcile these blunders? Whoa, calm down. No need to get upset. You were begging to come up here. You got beat the fuck down. I'm sorry it didn't go well for you. What's the inference rule?
All right, so can you actually like stop interrupting so I can actually give the
Sorry, do you want to just get good at debate? You know, that sounds like a skill issue to me.
Yeah, so no, that's not like you are being.
It's you interrupt people constantly. I've seen you on panels. The fuck are you talking about? Like, I could pull up videos of you debating like Mason, for example, of you interrupting him constantly. But now when somebody comes at you with the rigor, the same energy that you come at other people with, somehow you don't like it anymore. You know, it's not fun anymore. And all you can do is pivot to meta to avoid the absolute beating that you're receiving on the substance. What's the inference rule, big dog?
Yeah, so can you go back to the argument?
Sure, yeah. So you said premise 3 is C. What is it?
Can you just go back to the I'm gonna give you the
Yeah, sure. Wait, so what's the
go
C?
down to the
You want sure, yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay,
I forgot that you have bad
so
object
give me a
permanence,
second.
you
I'm
know.
gonna help
If
you
I
out.
scroll
Stop,
past something, you
Give me a
forget that
second,
it
does not
exists.
exist. It's not verifiable, then it's not the case that so it's gonna be if P then Q, there's gonna be if the conditional premise one is true, so it's gonna be if C, then R. The conditional premise one is true, so it's gonna be go down, stop. Because it's obviously valid in natural language. I just have to read it, right? So it's gonna be if you then Q, right? If C, then R, C, therefore R, go on. Yeah, that's it.
Sure, what is it?
I just said it. Did you forget?
Said it.
That's a blunder.
Another misspoke on behalf of this guy.
No, that's a blunder.
Sure, so that's not a blunder because what I asked you to do was just repeat it. So what's the third premise?
I just stated what it was.
Sure, what was it?
I just stated I'm not gonna repeat myself.
What is it? Oh, then that's fine. Luckily I have a replay. I'll just check the replay. You know, we'll just check.
The argument's obviously valid.
If God exists, then it's possible that he's deceiving you.
Because all my premises, the first premise
that wasn't your.
All I asked is what does he bring it down, right? Now he's using this guy can't track. He's using. It's like, so it's if C then if you then Q. It's Ian. He's set out like C.
His head is fucking spinning, dude. He has no idea where he is. Yeah, what's the inference rule? Come on. So you blundered the conclusion. You blundered premise 3.
Yeah, so
how do you want to reconcile these blunders? Whoa, calm down. No need to get upset. You were begging to come up here. You got beat the fuck down. I'm sorry it didn't go well for you. What's the inference rule?
I thought you could try. Can you actually like stop interrupting so I can actually give the
Sorry, do you want to just get good at debate? You know, that sounds like a skill issue to me.
Yeah, so no, that's not like you are being.
It's you interrupt people constantly. I've seen you on panels. The fuck are you talking about? Like, I could pull up videos of you debating like Mason, for example, of you interrupting him constantly. But now when somebody comes at you with the rigor, the same energy that you come at other people with, somehow you don't like it anymore. You know, it's not fun anymore. And all you can do is pivot to meta to avoid the absolute beating that you're receiving on the substance. What's the inference rule, big dog?
Yeah, so can you go back to the argument?
Sure, yeah. So you said premise 3 is C. What is it?
Can you just go back to the argument?
Yeah, sure. Wait, so what's the
go
C?
Down.
You want? Sure, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay,
I forgot that you have bad object permanence. You know, if I scroll past something, you forget that it exists.
It's not verifiable. Then it's actually so it's gonna be if P then Q. Are you if the conditional premise one is true? So it's gonna be if C then. Ian, what are you doing? Then R. The conditional premise one is true. So it's gonna be go down, stop.
Sure. So it's just if C then R and then.
Stop. Because it's obviously valid in natural language. I just have to read.
Oh, you said if C then R just now. Did you blunder on yet another one? Holy shit.
Wait.
So wait, the if C then R, is that not your third premise? Which one is that?
The C then R?
Yeah.
That was the second premise, no?
Did you blunder on the second premise too? You need to change the second premise?
You're the one that listening to the recording.
To be clear, you blundered on the second premise as well. You blundered on the conclusion, blundered on the third premise, blundered on the second premise. Sure, so now the second premise is if C then R. What's the third premise?
Right? The third premise was C.
C? Therefore R? Yeah, what's the name of this inference rule?
Inferences do not need to have names, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. Do you understand that the first premise is completely irrelevant?
No, that's not true.
What relevance does the third premise, or
Because
does the first premise serve?
The first premise is just going to be establishment that is going to be equivalent to R.
No, it doesn't. The term R
What is
doesn't appear a
R?
single
What
time in
is-
the first premise. Are you
Wait,
blind?
what is R?
You think
What is
that
R?
you think R
Oh my
appears in the
gosh,
first
blood type number
premise?
3.
This
What
guy's
is
sewing
R?
the fuck
What is
out.
R?
This guy
What is
thinks that nobody will be able to
What is
read the
R?
highlighted section.
is
It literally
R?
doesn't say R
What
anywhere
is
in the
R,
first premise.
moron?
You're
Moron.
oh my god, dude. I
Oh,
actually
guys,
think
this
that
guy
you
doesn't
might
know
have
the
like
difference
brain
between a
damage.
variable
And I mean,
and
who
what
could
is
blame
signified
you?
by the
You've gotten
variable. This is
completely
sad.
drowned in this
What is R?
conversation. Got beat the fuck down
What
on the
is
meta.
R?
Got beat
Wait,
the fuck
what
down
is
on the
R?
substance. And now
Yo, so
what
I'm
you're
gonna help
doing
you out,
right now
right?
is
So
getting beat
R
the fuck
is
down on the
FP
logic
then Q,
itself.
moron. So
The
it's gonna be
term
obviously
R
relevant.
doesn't
Can you
appear a
actually
single
attract?
time in the first
What is
premise. Can
R?
you acknowledge this
What
like
is
basic
R?
fact about
What is
reality?
R?
What is R? What is
What is R?
R?
Yeah, what is R?
In
The
this
variable.
case, let's see.
He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know. This
And
guy is an
they are
absolute dumb
semantically
fuck.
equivalent.
Oh my gosh.
Is R?
R is the first premise, idiot. R is
No,
if, then
R is
Q.
they are semantically equivalent. You're
Oh my
confused.
god, this guy is absolutely correct. So
You're
the-
sorry. You're in
R
your second
is-
premise. Your second premise is
R
if C,
is
then
if the
R. The second
conditional-
premise is
listen,
if
R
the
is if
conditional
the
premise one
conditional
is
premise
true,
one is
then they
true,
are
then
semantically
they are
equivalent.
semantically equivalent.
R
That
is
just
they
to
are
say that, like,
semantically
if the
equivalent.
conditional
Literally,
is true,
just check it.
then
Use
P
your
and Q are
eyes. Stop
semantically
embarrassing
equivalent.
yourself.
This guy's an
This
idiot.
is like,
This guy
oh
doesn't
my
understand
gosh.
anything.
If
Oh
I
my
if I
God,
call
this
my
is
opponent
bad.
an idiot, nobody
What do
will
you think-
realize
what do you think premise
that
is stating,
the
Ian?
stuff that's
Premise is
directly
stating
in
what,
front of
Ian?
everybody disagrees with the
stating what,
words
Ian?
coming out of my mouth.
Premise-
This is like
premise
really
is saying what,
embarrassing.
Ian?
You should calm down.
Ian,
Like
what is premise
seriously,
is
take a
saying?
deep breath.
Premise
Give an
is saying
inhale.
what, Ian?
Give an
Premise is
exhale.
saying what?
Whoa,
Are you
calm
wrong?
down there. Can you just acknowledge that
Wait,
they are
wait, can you-
semantically equivalent as R? That
What
R is
the-
just they are semantically equivalent?
No,
that
no. Oh my gosh.
So,
oh my gosh. Ian, can you
your
read?
premise two. I'll
the
make this
premise,
super easy.
Ian.
You said that premise two is if C then
What
R.
is
Premise
they
two is
are?
if the
What is the
conditional
they
premise
are?
one is
Ian, I'm gonna
true,
ask you a question,
then
right?
they are semantically
So, if you
equivalent.
repeat
So
these, for
R
example,
is they
when
are
we have,
semantically
like,
equivalent.
a
Yes
term
or
in
no?
Natural English,
Do you
like
agree
they
or do you
is gonna be
disagree with that?
referential to a
Do you
previous term,
agree or
correct?
do you disagree with that?
Yes or no?
Do you agree or
I'm gonna
disagree?
teach you semantics.
Agree
okay,
or
it's fine.
disagree?
It's okay.
Agree
So,
or
What is
disagree?
the word they referring
Yes
to?
or no?
What is the word they
Yes
referring to?
or no? Yes or
What is the
no?
word they referring
Yes
to? Ian?
or no?
What is the word they
Yes
referring to?
or
Are you gonna run
no?
away?
Is it
That's a
yes
dumb
or
fuck.
is it no? Yes or
Hello?
no?
What is the word they referring to,
Yes,
Ian?
no,
What
yes,
is the word they referring
no.
to,
Which
Ian?
one? Are you physically capable of answering the question? Yes or no? Is the answer
What
yes
is
or
your
no?
question? What is your question? I'm gonna be straight
Okay,
over
yeah.
to you.
Is the value of R they are semantically equivalent?
With the first what with what?
Just in the second premise, you said premise two is
Is
if the
R
conditional
semantically
premise one
equivalent
is
to what?
true, then they are semantically equivalent.
What?
You're confused by your own premise that I wrote down word for word.
What are you saying?
Okay. I think it's like kind of a sad reflection. I think this is like
that.
this is your
I'm saying,
second
what are you
premise.
asking
You know,
me?
these
What
are
are you
your
asking me?
words. You put these words forward. These words came out of your mouth.
I'm asking, what do you think
I
they is referring
copied
to?
this, put this up here. You know, additional words that came out of your mouth was that you got your second premise wrong. That actually
I
it's
said,
if
what
C
is
then R.
they?
So then R is that they are
I
semantically
said,
equivalent.
What is
Do you understand
referring
that?
to, huh?
Which part of that is like hard to track? I
are
actually
you
think
not
this is
getting?
like rather straightforward. Your
What are
second
you not
premise is
getting?
if the conditional premise one is true, then they're semantically equivalent. You've said that that takes
What
the
is
form
the
if C
they?
then R. So then that would seem to imply that R takes the value they are semantically equivalent. Is that correct?
Oh wait, or is some? Are you stupid?
Nope. This is like pretty straightforward, bud.
Wait, what do you mean? Hold on. So what is
Your
R
voice
referring to?
cracking and you saying "Are you stupid?"
What
really
is
isn't going to
R
help you
referring
when
to,
it's like
Ian?
actually all on the
Ian, can you
screen.
answer
R
the question?
refers to they are semantically equivalent.
What is the word they referring to? That's what I'm asking.
What the fuck? What an insane pivot. What does the word
Well-
day refer to? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, what is that referring to?
Why would I let you pivot? You think that I'm going to let
I'm
you
not
pivot like
pivoting.
this?
I've been
Do
asking
you
this question since the start.
disagree
Can
that
you
the
run back?
value of R
Run
is
back.
that
Hold
they
on,
are
hold on,
semantically
hold on.
equivalent?
Ian,
Is that the
run back
value
the
of R or
recording.
is
I've
that
been
not the
asking
value
what
of
is they
R?
referring to.
It's literally
So why am I
highlighted. All the
behaving to?
information you need to solve this
Can you answer the
complex
question?
puzzle is on the screen. You know, if you looked up, if you have the
Hello?
ability to read and comprehend words,
those guys
you know,
gonna
maybe
do
you
it.
want to make up a couple more words. You know, maybe you want to, you know, misspoke a few more times. Maybe you want to moan my name a couple more times. I don't know what you think moaning my name is going to do for you. Ian. I just don't think that that's an appropriate
What is the
time
word they
I don't think it's an
referring to?
appropriate time for that kind of response right now. I'm flattered, but
Yeah, can you
do
answer
you
the question?
acknowledge
What is
that
what they're
R
referring to?
is identical to they are semantically equivalent?
Are you not gonna answer the question?
I already asked you a question.
What?
Why would I answer your dodge derail question when I already asked you a
I asked you the
question?
question prior.
No,
and you
I asked
backed
my
into it.
question prior. You even tried to engage with mine, then you realized you couldn't, so you had to back the fuck off and then try
Well,
to
I
cope.
did engage with yours. What
So
was
is
your
the answer yes or
I
no?
asked you, hold on, when you
Is
asked
the
me,
answer yes or no?
well, okay, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Is the value of R equivalent to they are semantically equivalent?
What do you mean by value of R?
Just like what the term R takes, the meaning that the term R takes, like what it refers to.
R take meanings?
Yeah. That what it refers
does
to
that
in this
mean?
argument is that they are semantically equivalent. That your
Are you
second
asking?
premise
Are you
is
just asking
if
me
the
does it stand?
conditional of premise one
Yes,
is
it
true,
stands
then
for
they
the
are
R
semantically
semantically
equivalent, and you
equivalent.
say that
Yes.
that takes the form
Are you?
if C then
I'm gonna
R,
make sure that.
and
So
then
you're saying that
R would
whoa.
then seem to take the value they
You're
are
saying that it
semantically
stands for
equivalent.
that they are
Are
semantically
you tracking?
equivalent,
Are you
correct?
not tracking? Like, do you want me to explain it to you again?
Hello, can you answer the question?
Do you want me to explain it to you with like Lincoln logs?
I
Like,
heard your
yeah,
question.
is it like Fortnite terms? Is it going to take Fortnite terms?
That's not real.
If we drop at tilted towers, then
That they
we're
are
gonna find
okay,
a
yes, they
gold
are.
scar, and
Yo.
that takes the form if C then R. Well, in this
Yes,
case,
yes, if
we're gonna
yo,
find a gold scar would be
Ian, I've answered the
R in
question
this
already.
circumstance. So would you agree that in this circumstance, R refers to they are semantically equivalent?
Okay, if all you're saying is that it's thin for it, yes. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, cool. So then you do agree
Yeah, so
that
I've
actually that
answered
is
your
what R
question, by the
said,
way.
that you were swaying out earlier, and in fact I got
Now,
it
can you
completely right.
address
Is
my?
that another blunder, to be clear?
No, because I literally
No,
told
no,
you
it's
the
not a
only thing I
blunder.
said was,
No.
"What do you mean?"
Okay.
And then
Oh
I said,
boy.
"Well, if that's what you mean, then yes, I agree."
Okay,
No
sure.
one has blundered. What are you talking
Sure.
about?
So what sort of utility, if we took away the first premise, would this inference rule still be valid?
No.
You don't think that this is a valid inference rule? You
Not
just
for
said
me.
that you said if C then R, C therefore R is not a valid inference rule. That's the fucking infinity blunder, big dog. You don't think modus ponens is a valid inference rule? Is that correct?
I hold to relevance
You
logic.
don't think modus ponens is
You know what
valid?
relevance logic
Do you
is?
think modus ponens is a valid inference rule?
Not under all conditions, no.
Sure. Wait. So then, when you gave it earlier, when you said that this argument follows modus ponens, was that a blunder?
No, that wasn't.
Sure. So you think modus ponens holds in some cases, but not
No.
all of them. Is
Yeah,
that
because I hold
correct?
to
Holy
because
shit! This is like actually the
do you
fucking
know what
infinity
relevance
blunder.
logic is? This guy so makes it a
Whoa.
blunder.
Yeah, he's trying
I
to
hold
pivot to some
relevance
more
logic.
shit.
Do you know what that is?
So what I could do for you, I guess I could give
So
you like a
guys don't know
truth
what
table.
relevance logic is,
So
and
we
they say I'm
got
blundering. This guy's an
C
absolute man.
R.
Oh my god.
If
So I'll
C
tell you,
then
right? So
R.
I'll tell you what relevance logic, right? Relevance
You
logic is
know,
gonna say that like
true,
what it
true,
means for us to have a conditional
true,
is just that the antecedent
true,
follows
false,
if the premise is true. If the
false, false, true,
listen, are you listening?
true, false, false,
I don't
true.
hold to classical logic, you moron.
Oh, so
This
what's
guy's
gonna be
maybe
your what would be your truth table for if then?
what this guy's out to relevance logic. You understand that what it is?
I don't understand what that is.
Yeah, relevance logic does not use this type of ideas of like truth table for conditionals. You understand that, right? That's the whole
Sure.
point
So
of
what would they
relevance
use
logic.
instead? How would you be defining the if then statement?
The if statement is just going to be defined that like the antecedent follows right from the the consequent follows from the antecedent. That's what I meant.
The consequent follows from the antecedent. So you think, if C then R is saying that if the consequent or that if the antecedent obtains, then
No,
the
it's not saying
consequent
if it obtains.
obtains,
It never said
and
that.
then the antecedent. That's
It never
literally what
said
you
if it
just said.
obtains.
Holy
It says that
shit!
it follows.
You just said that what if then
I
means
said it follows.
in
Moron, I never said it
whatever
obtains. It doesn't have to
whatever
obtain for it to
logic
follow,
you're
moron.
describing, and then you're taking it back now.
It doesn't
So
have to obtain for it to follow. What are you doing? What do
by
you think,
follow, I take that to mean like if one thing is true, then the other thing
no,
is going to be
that's
true
not.
as
That's not what
well.
we take follow to mean. All we mean that it's that
If you don't stop yelling, your mom's going to come back here and beat the fuck out of you again.
my mom was not
Yeah,
talking
I mean, we
about
heard her
this. I don't know
earlier.
about.
Sounds kind of
What
hot, to
did
be
she?
honest. You should put
So
her on
what
the
did she?
phone.
Wait, what did she say?
She sounded like pretty mad. You had to mute up for a second. That's why there was like an awkward pause
I
earlier.
didn't mute up for a second. What
Yeah,
are you
you
talking
did.
about?
It's all on the replay. It's going to get
Wait.
posted to YouTube, big dog.
Oh yeah, you can post it. And then
Yeah,
you can
it's going
see
to.
whether she was
Yeah.
talking to me or not, right? So let's discuss. So
So wait, what's the name of the logic that you're referring to?
yeah, I said relevance logic.
Relevance logic.
Hello?
Sure, let's check it. Relevance logic.
I said my mom's
Are
hard.
non-classical logics called relevant logics in Britain and Australia used? These systems developed to avoid the paradoxes of material and strict implications.
Yeah,
These
material
so-called
implication
paradoxes are
paradox.
valid conclusions that follow from the definitions of material and strict implications, but are seen by some as problematic. For example, the material implication P implies Q is true whenever P is false or Q is true. Oh.
Okay, so
Oh wait, is this giving like the example of
like
like what motivates it? Because if this is saying what I think this is saying, then you're fucked.
You don't know what it's
You're
saying.
actually fucked because then modus ponens would be a valid inference rule in this.
What the fuck? Wait, who said that? What order? I'm gonna help you out, right? Ponens is only valid where they are gonna be relevant.
Wait, sorry, can I get a
conditions.
source that says that relevance logic rejects modus ponens?
I never say rejected modus ponens, by the way.
Okay, so then you accept modus ponens.
I said modus ponens is not always valid. That's what I said.
Sure, but is it always valid under relevance logic?
No, it's not. What, is it always valid under relevance logic?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Like in the system of logic
Okay,
or
look,
of relevance
I already told you what
logic,
he's saying.
is this
So
always a
relevance
valid
logic-
inference rule?
There's gonna be constraint.
Sure, what are the constraints that would make it invalid?
Yeah. So it's gonna be that like the constraint is that the modus ponens only is valid when the antecedent and the consequence of relevance.
When they're and what's the criteria for relevance?
That the criteria is gonna for relevance is gonna be like semantical.
Okay, a total non-answer. The criteria is semantical. Holy shit, dude. Do you think
What do you
like
think that-
hopefully
wait.
like your friends have like 60
Guys,
IQ
an
points and
idiot.
don't realize how embarrassing of an answer that was?
Wait,
You know,
how
the
is-
criteria
why was it-
for whether or not,
why
you know,
was
it's
it-
relevant is semantical.
is
Do
gonna-
you just take that? Were you just like trying to use
why
the
do you
word
think that
relevance
means?
somewhere? You
That's
saw that it was
gonna be-
relevance logic. So then you're like, well, surely it has to do with like
No.
semantic relevance. Or I'm sorry,
No,
as you would say,
okay.
like semantical
I can give you a
relevance.
okay, so if I give you a paper that states this, are you just gonna like?
I would definitely read that paper. Yeah, what's the name of the paper?
Would you concede though?
I would concede that modus
you
ponens is
consider
not
the-
always valid
hold
in your
on.
system if it
Would
makes
you-
the claim that
would you
that modus
concede-
ponens is not always
Exactly,
valid in
I'm
relevance
asking you-
logic.
Bro, this is why. Look,
What's
this
the name
is
of the
why I
paper?
can- This is why I can discuss with you, right? Because you keep interrupting.
It's because you get beat the fuck down every time you pipe the fuck
no,
up.
it's
Yeah.
because you keep. No, that's not the. Bro, look, I'm just trying to be like actually like respectful here, right? So.
Yeah, I can tell.
Okay.
You can't
So,
take back
the
like the
reason why-
aggression that
the
you gave
reason why-
earlier, which is fine.
Yeah, hold on, because.
Oh
obviously I'm
fuck
trying-
yeah! I actually will totally. I'll actually 100% concede if you can find me a paper that says in relevance logic,
Well, no, I'm
modus
saying that
ponens
when
is
you
not
concede-
valid. Yeah, I
Hold on,
will
can
concede.
I
Yeah, go
finish?
for it. What's the name of the
Wait,
paper?
will you concede? Wait, will you concede to the?
I'll
whole
convert to
argument?
Catholicism right this second if you can find me that paper.
You convert to Catholicism.
Yeah, right this second if you can find me a paper that
relevance
says that
no.
in relevance logic,
It's
modus
not always
ponens is
valid.
not a valid inference rule. Yeah, go
I
ahead
never
and
said
find
it's
me
not-
that.
Why are you changing what I'm saying?
Oh fuck! Now he's backtracking on his claim. Yeah, get
It's
blown the
not
fuck out on
always
that.
valid. That's what I
Actually,
said.
like
Stop
genuinely
changing my
torn in
words.
half on his dog shit claim.
Wait, what did I say?
Your
Did I say
claim
it's
was
not
that in
valid or
relevance
it's not
logic, it's
always
not
valid?
always valid.
Okay, so don't change my words, right?
That's what you said. That's your claim.
Yeah, or that's not what you said that I stated earlier.
Your claim is that in
You said
relevance
that-
logic,
you said
modus
that I
ponens is
stated-
not always valid
you
because
said
your
that I
claim is that
stated
this is not a
that-
valid
hold on,
inference
listen
rule.
carefully. You said
Is that
I
correct?
stated that modus ponens is not valid. I didn't say that. I said that it's not always valid.
Sure. So what are the circumstances where it's not valid?
Hold on. Don't ask me questions. You said that if it is the case that I find your paper, you're gonna concede, correct?
Specifically for relevance logic that says
Yeah, for relevance-
for
yeah, for
relevance
relevance
logic, modus
logic.
ponens is not valid. Yeah, I'll convert to Catholicism.
All right, give me a second. I'm gonna get it to my PDF
Yep.
right now.
Yep, let's get it. Let's read up on relevance logic while we wait. Relevance logic or non-classical logics called relevance. Oh, we already read that. For example, material implication P implies Q is true whenever P is false or Q is true, i.e., not P or Q. So if P is true, then the material implication is true when Q is true. Among the paradoxes and material implications are the following. The first asserts that every proposition implies a true one, the second that a false proposition implies every proposition, and the third that for any three propositions, either the first implies the second or the second implies the third. Similarly, the strict implication P implies Q is true whenever it is not possible that P is true, Q is false, i.e. It's not possible P and not Q. Among these paradoxes are those: the first asserts that contradiction strictly implies every proposition. The second and third imply that every proposition strictly implies a tautology. Many philosophers, beginning with Macaulay, have claimed that these theses are counterintuitive. They claim that the formulae fail to be valid if we interpret that as representing implication that we have before we learn classical logic. Relevance logicians claim that what is unsettling about these so-called paradoxes is that in each of them, the antecedent seems irrelevant to the consequences. In addition, relevance logicians have had qualms about certain inferences that classical logic makes valid. For example, consider the classically valid inference: the moon is made of green cheese. Therefore, either it is raining in Ecuador now, or it is not. Again, here there seems to be a failure of relevance. The conclusion seems to have nothing to do with the premises. Relevance logicians have attempted to construct logics that reject theses and arguments that commit fallacies of relevance. Relevant logicians point out that what is wrong with some of these paradoxes is that the antecedents and consequence are in completely different topics. The notion of a topic, however, would seem to be something that a logician should be interested in. It has to do with the content, not the form of a sentence or inference, but there's a formal principle that relevance logicians apply. Yeah, you have the name of the paper? What's the name of the paper? Let's see it. Yeah, what's the name? Let's get it. Always takes a second to get ChatGPT fired up.
Yeah, I'm not using ChatGPT. I'm finding the code and I'm going to put it on the screen, right? So calm down.
Yep. Well, wait. Oh, sorry. I asked for the name of the paper. What's the name of the paper?
The name. I'm not giving a paper. I'm giving.
No. That was the request that you're going to give a name of a paper. That's what you said you would give. Oh, fuck. He's backtracking now. He couldn't find one. That's brutal. So actually, you failed to demonstrate the thing that you said you were going to demonstrate. You said, I'll find you a paper that claims this. And I said, I will convert to Catholicism if you can find me a paper that makes that claim, that in relevance logic, modus ponens is not a valid inference rule. So are you going to be able to provide that or not?
A philosophical examination of inference by...
Oh, sure. Wait, what's the name of the paper?
A philosophical examination of inference by Stephen Reed.
Philosophical...
I was trying to help you out, but...
Examination of inference...
by Stephen Reed.
You can hear, like, the defeat in this guy's voice.
For what?
Can't seem to find that one. Philosophical examination of inference by...
Inference Reed? By Stephen Reed, yeah.
Okay.
I have it right there. What are you talking about?
And also, University of St. Andrews, sure.
Watch him ask me the page. I'm not gonna tell him because he told me he only wanted the name of the page.
Oh fuck, he's not gonna be able to share. Well, we'll just search for modus ponens.
You wanted to give a break, right? I was gonna help you and say, well, by paper, do you mean the page? Because I was gonna put it up.
Consequently,
no.
of the rules of conditional proof and modus ponens, that this fear is unfounded. This guy literally uses, oh, fucking brutal. This is like really embarrassing. You should have just ran. Your best option was to run. Now you get this instead. Okay, so we have two instances of modus ponens. So the first one, our care in finding the correct formulation of the deduction equivalence and consequently of the rules of conditional proof and modus ponens shows that this fear is unfounded. This guy's literally citing modus ponens. And the second one,
he's saying it's unfounded. This guy's dumb.
He's saying that the fear is unfounded.
What?
You can't parse an English sentence. The thing that's unfounded is not modus ponens, it's the fear.
What do you mean by
you have like 30 IQ points? That's a brutal misread on your part. You know, I'm sorry, dude. This is like a highlight reel of you just like humiliating yourself. Do you think that in this sentence the thing that's unfounded is the fear, or is it modus ponens?
I never said. I said that he's saying that the fear is unfounded.
Oh yeah, that's what you're saying. So do you acknowledge that actually this doesn't make any claims about modus ponens being invalid?
Yes, it does. Can you read that?
Sure. Wait, which page? Because it only mentions modus ponens twice. There are two mentions of modus ponens, and it doesn't mention it in either of them.
Yeah, it does mention it. It doesn't. Can I? Yo. Can
Yo,
stop
do you think
interrupting?
Control F is just fucking lying?
Yeah. So Yo, are you just gonna?
Is
Stop?
Control F lying? You think
Yeah,
that
he
there's
talks
more?
about- yo, just gonna keep interrupting me.
So yeah, what page?
So if I give you the page,
Yeah.
After you said you didn't want the page,
I do want the page. Yeah, what is it?
but you said that like you only wanted the name of the book. or the
Oh,
paper.
sorry. I never said don't give me the page.
No,
I
you
said what's the name of the
don't-
thing?
I said,
Me wanting the name of the book
You said,
or the
"Oh,
name
but
of the
that's not what I
paper
asked
is
for.
not
I only asked the name of the
incompatible with
book,
me
right?"
also wanting the page. You know, me
So
saying
can
that,
you-
you know,
okay,
I would
so,
like a
okay,
sandwich
so
today is
all you have to
compatible
do
with me
is
also
Control F
wanting milk. I don't know if
validity.
you're
I'm
aware of
gonna
that fact. You know, another sentence that you like utterly failed to parse.
Just put Control F validity.
Validity.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, we have 134 instances of
And then
this.
find where he talks about the what he allows his condition for what makes something valid. I'm not gonna help.
Okay, however, the classical
gonna
account
wait
of
for you to go
validity
through all
entails.
the 100
Sure, yeah,
pages.
let's do it. Adding to this account of validity, it follows that the conditional is material or truth functional. Since such a view validates invalid arguments, we are forced to reject or revise the classical account and in passing conclude that disjunction is ambiguous. The intentional
Wait,
sense
do
of
you see what he's saying
conjunction
about
so
true functional?
concerned
Can you read the true
allows
functional
a
account?
suitable revision to the
Do you
classical
know what
account of
true
validity.
functionality
I'm
is?
still looking for the part where it
He
mentions
just
modus
stated it.
ponens.
Oh my god, this guy's an idiot.
Wait,
You know
sorry.
what?
Then sorry.
Can you go back
Where
up?
does modus ponens appear in here? Can I get that?
The validity of modus ponens is gonna be true functional, correct?
Oh, sorry. And I'm just to be clear.
Hello?
Just to be clear, there's no mention of modus ponens here. Is that
Can
correct?
you read?
Does
Yo,
modus
can-
does modus
Is this guy gonna
ponens
keep
appear
interrupting
here,
me?
or
This guy-
yeah,
I'm
I am
making
going
a
to keep
point. Please
interrupting
don't
you
interrupt
until
me.
you start engaging. Does modus ponens appear anywhere on this page?
All right, so
Anywhere
can you-
on the page, hero. Anywhere
Are
on
you
the
just gonna
page.
keep- look, are you gonna keep
Does it?
interrupting me?
I will. Yes, I will. Yes or no? Does it appear anywhere on the page?
No.
Oh, cool. Thanks. You just conceded.
I considered what?
Yeah, you just conceded that this book doesn't make the claim that you were trying to make.
So if the book says that true functionality, right, is not going to be something that we hold to, you understand that modus ponens is going to be invalid, right?
Why? Where does it say that?
Okay, so what do you think? Hold on, when you have a truth table, what do you think that is?
It's saying
is
that
a
in
key
these
of-
circumstances, it's going to be
Wait,
true.
what do you think true functionality is?
Like a truth function is just going to be something that maps to like specific truth values.
Okay, so what is a truth table?
A truth table is just like it gives variables, then you assign like all possible combinations of true and false to determine like the output.
It's telling you that given the output, there's going to be an input. If it's telling you that the true functionality account is wrong, what is it telling you?
Sorry, where does it say? Let me just make sure I'm reading this correctly.
Oh my gosh, can you answer the question? This dodge. Oh my gosh. What was the question I asked you?
What then is the correct theory of validity? Is it a plausible thought that the argument is valid if and only if it is impossible for the premises to be true and the conclusion to be false? However, the classical account of validity entails that ex falso quidlibet, that is, the inference from P and not P to Q is valid. Also, plausible is the deduction equivalence, that is, that a conditional follows from some other premise if and only if its consequent follows. So it sounds like he's rejecting like a specific account of truth functionality, but then presumably he would be taking a different account of validity under which the question would be, well, does he think modus ponens is valid?
There is an account. It's stating that modus ponens is only valid when the antecedent and consequent are gonna have some relevance. Correct?
Where does he say that? Yeah, on what page does he say that?
What do you want me to? After you didn't want those
He's
things.
oh fuck, he got
I
got.
can
Oh
give them
no.
to you, but like, you have to, like,
It's
beg me. You have to
Big
say,
Jover once more.
You say things like if you like say like please daddy.
Hero, are you in like an ontological state of it being over for you?
Can you actually
I've never seen a person who more consistently
Oh my
it's like
God. Are you gonna
over
beg?
for them. Why would I
Can
beg?
you beg? If you don't beg, I'm not gonna do it.
Oh, okay. Wait, you want me to beg? In order
Yeah.
to continue the conversation, you're gonna make me beg to you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I guess I'm moving on to the next guest. Well, make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of argument or evidence for God's existence. Damn, that dude got the fuck beaten out of him. That was like some good rhetorical work on my part. If I could glaze the fuck out of myself. Let's read some more supers. Happy Trans Day of Visibility. Whoa, that's so cool. Happy Trans Day of Visibility to you as well. He's a Make-A-Wish kid. Nice insult. Yeah. Misunderstanding logic for Jeebus. True. True. Absolutely. Well, hey, if you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of argument or evidence for God's existence. And that we will go to. Let's actually we'll be good. We'll look at the list. Richard Rowe. That's who we have next. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing well. How old are you?
I am 23.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't remember. My bad.
Totally fine. Yeah. What religion?
So I've recently had a lot of stuff going on, and it is one of the three, but I'm trying to figure out more. I'm transitioning from one to another and learning more. But yeah, I did want to ask some questions, just kind of off rip. So I wanted to ask a little bit about your stance on skepticism.
Skepticism about what?
Just in general, particularly for Descartes' Meditations, where
Sure,
they talk about
yeah.
Particularly the idea of the devil on your shoulder. That's where I try to lean a little bit, because personally, if you follow skepticism down that rabbit hole, the area it leads to is what is inevitably known is doubt, and then doubt, there must be a doubter. If there is a doubter, there must be somebody capable of doing
Sure,
thinking.
yeah.
I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum, all that nonsense.
Yep.
Everything after that, though, there's a portion where everything after that is just functionally unknown. You and I trust the chairs we're sitting in because we trust that they'll support us. But there is always an aspect. There's another theory. It's like GRUE, GRUE. Basically, it's the idea that something is blue until it randomly turns green because it's. You may want to look it up.
That's like a slight misrepresentation of GRUE.
Yes. Go ahead.
What GRUE refers to is. GRUE is a property where the thing is blue until 1980, in which case it is green. Yes. But the problem is that it's not like something magically turns to green, but rather it's a question of when do these properties apply? That something that's green right now would fall under GRUE, even if it was always green. It would be both green and also GRUE. Right now, and prior to that, it would be blue and also GRUE. So in that sense, you have a change in a property that doesn't involve any internal change. That's kind of how GRUE gets used in the literature, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. I know my understanding of it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, was that there was hypothetically a crystal in a cave, and this I believe they started green in the example. I don't remember. It's semantics either way. But like you mentioned, until 1980, and maybe it's not 1980, it's some particular point in time, it randomly turns blue, right? Based off of some characteristic that we haven't figured out how to measure yet. The distinction is we have no way to determine whether it is actually a green crystal or a GRUE crystal until later on. Is that am I somewhat paraphrasing that right?
I think I have a different understanding of this. There's one philosopher specifically who
I'm seeing Nelson Goodman in Fact, Fiction, and Forecast.
Nelson what?
Nelson Goodman.
Oh, that sounds about right.
That's what I was able to find with a Google search, but that could be, either way, the main thing I wanted to highlight was that properties of things aren't known holistically. We can never know anything for absolute certain. Everything is always based off of what we have established so far. So we use a lot of our logic. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're totally fine. So I think probably the biggest objection is that I don't think we need absolute certainty to have knowledge. I think you can know something as long as you're justified and there are no defeaters for your belief. I don't think you need 100% certainty to be said to know something. So, for example, I might not have 100% certainty that I have hands. It's possible I'm hallucinating, but I don't think you need 100% certainty. I think you can just have evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. That's sort of leads up to the idea of, have you seen the proof for the absence of evidence is evidence of absence?
No.
That's a proof that comes up a lot whenever you're like discussing theology with people. It's something that's kind of really cool. I'd recommend Googling it if you have time. It's a really it's a short proof, but it's pretty. I like it. Getting into the weeds anyways, I 100% agree with your stance that you don't have to know anything for certain. And I would argue to a degree there's very few things we can know for absolute certain, with the exception of the argument of meditations from Descartes and whatever you can build off of that. The vast majority of things are based off of what is most likely, and usually more so than most likely, what is the desired outcome for us, I'd argue, I guess. What is I
feel like we're doing a lot of framing stuff, but okay, are we getting to God?
Yes, I'm looping my way there. So I was going to lead a little bit towards, do you know what Pascal's wager is?
Yeah.
So there's a version of Pascal's wager. I don't particularly appreciate Pascal's wager because it does kind of lead towards, I think his original version was Christianity focused. And I don't believe you can make that argument. I believe you can make the argument of theism as opposed to atheism, as far as a religious argument goes, but I'm, not entirely certain of that fact, so I'd like to run it by you if that's okay.
Sure.
So basically the idea is that, and this may be a false dichotomy, but either God exists or he doesn't. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. From there, the two outcomes you can separate it into is either if a God exists and you can behave one or two ways, either one, in accordance with his, whatever you perceive his will to be, or not in accordance with whatever his will, however you would against the will, or, and that's possibly another false dichotomy, but I would like to run that by you as well. Do you agree to that, or?
Yeah, I mean, either you act, for any given action, either you act in accordance with his will or not in accordance with his will. I agree with that.
Okay, so that kind of gives us this little 4-box square where this is the basis of Pascal's wager, but I guess for anybody else watching, the argument here is that if God exists and you follow whatever creed and happen to get it right by whatever metric, right, you will get whatever you understand if you happen to be right in that regard. God will, reward that behavior by whatever metric that reward happens to be. The argument against that is if you go against that, God will likely punish that based off of whatever metric he decides that punishment will be. And again, these are all very willy-nilly because I am personally of the belief that there is not a lot we can know as far as theology goes. There's a lot we can suspect and apply logic to. And I, sorry, reading the comments, say something foolish. Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
Okay. I can maybe I'll flip this on you. Let's say that atheismo exists, and what he wants is for you to not believe in God. He's like a being who's going to torture you forever if you believe in a God. But then if you don't, if you're an atheist your whole life, then you'll get to go and party with atheismo, and it'll be really chill.
Isn't atheismo a God though, by that metric?
Yeah, it would be. But then Pascal's wager is an argument for whether you should or shouldn't believe in God. If you're just saying if this ends up being the case, then it's going to be these outcomes. Either atheismo exists or he doesn't exist, and then either you're going to,
because
you either believe in a God, in which case you get tortured forever if he ends up existing, or you don't believe in a God, and then you get eternal bliss. So, I mean, by this standard, if we're not providing any evidence for these things, we're just doing cost-benefit analysis. It seems like you're equally benefited by not believing in God because of the possibility of atheismo.
Yes, and arguably that would apply to every possible God that could possibly exist. Atheismo, and arguably a lot of the gods that have already been established have a functional form of atheismo built into them, where you follow no other gods but me. That's kind of a pretty solid tenet of most of those 3 Abrahamic faiths, right? Have no.
I mean, I agree with that. I'm not sure what that would have to do with atheismo, though.
Oh, well, atheismo is functionally he is still a god in himself in that he wants you to follow his creed as opposed to the other gods' creeds, which is identical to the other gods that could be mentioned. The theology.
Yeah, in the sense that he doesn't want you to believe in him, yeah?
Yes. So arguably, you're going to be rolling the dice on which God. We've just established that you should actively believe in some God.
No. You should not believe in
go ahead.
atheismo. Because if you believe in atheismo, then it'll torture you forever.
So wait, if you don't believe in atheismo, why are you following his creed?
I don't.
But
I don't believe in atheismo. I'm not an atheist because of atheismo.
Okay. Yes. So that's sort of, it's one of those, this is a really beautiful thing that we've stumbled on. I really saw this video the other day. I think you might like it. You've seen the boxes, the two boxes. If you open one, it's sort of like that, where if you can will yourself to believe something like I don't remember the name of that. It's a really
Newcomb's paradox.
Yes. Thank you very much. It is a little bit like Newcomb's paradox at that point now. So it's, if you can will yourself to believe in atheismo, or rather, if you can will yourself to be an atheist without believing you did it because you believed in atheismo, you get the reward of atheismo, right?
Well, I don't. Okay.
Yeah.
We're kind of like switching between two like very distinct sorts of questions, which is what is true and what should you believe? Atheismo is not like a thing that's true, but in the it's only relevant in the conversation of like what you should believe. If atheismo ends up being the thing, well, you shouldn't believe in atheismo. In fact, you shouldn't believe in any of the gods.
Okay. So it's the distinction of what you should believe versus what is actually happens to be right.
In some sense, like you might, there are like circumstances where you could say, we should believe in it, but it's not true. But like I mean, in this one, if in a circumstance where atheismo exists, which is not what I believe, you don't want to believe in atheismo. You only win the wager by not believing in atheismo. You have infinity to gain. So the way Pascal's wager works is it says you have infinity to gain by believing, but nothing to lose by not believing because of the possibility that God exists. But then the reverse is true with atheismo. You have infinity to gain by not believing, but infinity to lose by believing if he turns out to be real.
Yes.
So we should, unless we have some reason to prefer the God that's all good but tortures you forever over atheismo,
right?
Then it doesn't really seem like it doesn't really seem like I have any reason to believe more than I do to not believe.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's valid because honestly, my end goal here was just going to end up being personal experience is kind of the ultimate, like, what's the word? In my opinion, personal experience is kind of the ultimate definition for each person as to what they should believe. If you have spent your life seeing all of the good possible merits of any particular faith, like atheismo, for example, if you've seen a lot of good done from that, you believe that following that would cause more good, or really whatever you want. Maybe you enjoy, like, I guess personal experience. Do you agree with that, or?
I think that your beliefs need to be true in order to live a good life. I think that if you live a life of like delusion, even if it makes you happy, then what you're doing there is like coping, and that's not a particularly good life. The example that I like, imagine, my automatic pill dispenser is going off.
Sorry. The story of Narcissus and Nympha. I'll look that up. Narcissus and Nympha. I know Narcissus is a guy that died. Oh.
Sorry, I had to take my melatonin.
No worries.
I go to bed in 2 hours. Okay.
I can probably let you go soonish. Sorry about that.
Yeah, probably. Okay, wait, but so imagine we have a wife, and she thinks that she has everything that she wants. She has kids, friends, like a husband. She has a great relationship with all of them from her perspective. But in actuality, all these people fucking hate her, make fun of her viciously. Her husband's cheating on her with her friends. Her kids make fun of her. They don't respect her at all. This wife might think that she has a good life, but she actually doesn't. Her life, what she thinks makes her life good, like none of these things are real. They're all false. It's all fake. How
can she ever know though at that point? It's sort of like Gru, right?
Yeah. But would you say that that's like a worse life than if she actually genuinely had those things?
I don't really know. I guess from her standpoint, she could never tell the difference. So from her standpoint, they're functionally equal, right?
I find that very unintuitive. Maybe like something that might like intuition pump further. You know, if I found out that I was in the Matrix and that all of my experiences were fake, you know, none of it actually happened. The people that I interact with don't have an experience like mine.
Yeah.
You know, my girlfriend doesn't have a conscious experience. She's just like ones and zeros.
That's if you find that out, right?
Yeah. Well,
Which is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
it's not even if I found that out. If that were true of somebody else, but you know, their experience was really happy, I would take it to mean that kind of their life is like not valuable, or sorry, it's not that it's not valuable, it's not meaningful, is what it's not.
Gotcha.
That their life is like utterly devoid of meaning because it's built on delusion.
Yeah. I would probably like maybe, yeah, I think I could agree to that from like a third person standpoint of like, it is a lie. It's built on a lie. I think from their perspective, they have no way of knowing. And the minute they discover it, like if you tell her, oh, 100%, she should like adapt. But from her perspective, like she will never know the difference between the two. And it's kind of the same as like Gru. But
it's kind of, but if you agree with that from like the third person perspective, then you'd also need to say that, you know, if you're deeply mistaken about the facts of your life or the facts of the world around you, well, that would probably be an indictment of your meaning.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, like, okay, let's say you dedicate your life to God, but actually God doesn't exist. Even if believing in God makes you really happy, I would think that that's like a serious inhibitor to having like a meaningful life. That in some sense, you kind of like lived your entire life like deep in a delusion.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. Yeah, and especially considering that the vast majority of times for a lot of religions, there is a request of you. Like it's, sorry.
No, you're totally fine. I accidentally turned on a video, but then I clicked off of it quickly enough. Okay.
No worries.
So yeah, wait, what were you saying?
There is normally a request of you of most religions to that regard, and I would definitely agree with that. There is a lot of benefit from what I've seen, regardless of religion theism or atheism. For what I've seen good and bad done in the name of both. It's kind of looping around to like, excuse me. You should personally. I like doing good because it feels good.
Sure.
And that does kind of like creep into hedonism. I was like, well, I like doing drugs because they feel good, you know? So there's a weird aspect of like everything kind of leads towards a golden mean, or actually arguably more so, sort of like there's a flaw in everything. I was going to say utilitarianism, but there's so many flaws in, well, not so many, but there's flaws in any ideology. Long story short, the vast majority of people I've encountered, like, will kind of be happy believing whatever they believe, and discussing things with them like this, for example, are, you know, helpful one way or another to helping them learn something. But if they really don't want to learn it, I mean, it does kind of cause harm in their life by trying to force it upon them, I guess.
So, okay, I agree with that. I think that there's like times where it's like permissible for people to live. Okay, so this is true from my worldview. It's not true from your worldview. But in my worldview, people who dedicate their life to religion are living for something that's false. Their entire life is like centered around like a falsehood. And there are times where it's like permissible to let people, like, if your life is like dog shit terrible, and the only thing that you look forward to is every Sunday at church, it's like a bearable life. I don't think that I should be coming in and like wrestling the religion away from you. But that's an exceptionally bad life. To be clear, right? Like, if you need a coping mechanism because your life is that bad, I think it's maybe fine to let you have that coping mechanism. But I think for the rest of us, like, that's not good. We should be trying to live as close to reality as we can be, which means that we should be trying to form our beliefs on the basis of evidence.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And a weird like jump that I wanted to make here, because I don't know if this applies, but it might, which is an interesting thought. You had mentioned a second ago, you had personally believed that a lot of religion is built on a misunderstanding right? Of like somebody 1,000 years ago said something, wrote something down, and then now we're here. And the argument for atheism, not believing that, because you're not only receiving the benefit of atheismo in pursuing atheism, you're receiving the benefit of you get to live your life however you want to live it without being constrained to the requirements of the religion, the strain that
I wasn't even thinking about that, but like that's totally true, actually. Like that is like an additional reason to be an atheist, is that you know, you get to
it is living as based off of your personal, like what you want, what you see the most yield in life. That, weirdly enough, it's kind of all morphing into one argument, because if we are pursuing atheism for the ideal of it gives you the most yield personally, there are a lot of people who will follow religion because it gives them personal yield, right?
Sure. I mean, I think, okay, I will say, and this is true from my worldview, it's not true from your worldview, but in my worldview, atheism is true. And you know, there's like lots and lots of evidence for it. It's very easy to arrive at the atheist position on the basis of the evidence. It's very hard to arrive at the theist position on the basis of the evidence. So in that sense, like atheism would just be more reality oriented, and reality orientation is necessary to live a good life. You know, if your life is not reality oriented, then it's probably not a good life. In fact, you might not even be able to evaluate it.
Yeah, it's kind of looping back into like good life versus bad life. And it's like, how can you tell the difference between delusion and reality? But I do agree you should live your life as close to you're able to understand our reality based off of evidence.
Yep.
From that conclusion, though, I think like a lot of the times trying to like personally, for example, grew up in a particular faith, and it really confused me a lot hearing all these things, and it caused a lot of strife in my life. And then now encountering other faiths, learning more about it, there's a lot of like additional like things that I'm learning that are kind of more in accordance to what I enjoy personally. Like I, for a long time, have never been a big fan of alcohol or all of these other things. And like, you know, I've seen yields of avoiding it, and I'm not going to feel like if we should ban all alcohol. No, I just personally don't want to do that myself, I guess. And it kind of aligns easier with other faiths. But I do agree with your stance that a lot of what makes a good life is based off of our understandings of reality.
Sure. You know, I wish I could continue this conversation, but I have to get going soon. So I appreciate you coming on up here. Let me read some supers and I'm going to head on out. Been working to ground my ethics, and you highlighting Gaworth has helped me a ton, or has helped me a lot. Thanks a ton. What's your favorite mythical creature? Well, first of all, I'm really glad to hear that about Gaworth. After this book club is done, I'm thinking maybe we should read Gaworth's Logic and Morality. Or fuck, I think I'm misremembering it. Is it Reason and Morality? What an embarrassing blunder on my part. Yeah, it is Reason and Morality. Fuck. I think that would be a good read for this community. But you know, speaking of the book club, if you aren't in the book club, we're reading Michael Huemer's Knowledge, Reality, and Value. It's great. We're having a great time so far. We're on the 11th chapter, which we talk about every single Sunday. But I haven't read any of the past Sundays. Doesn't matter. All you need to do is read this specific section and then show up and you'll be on track. It's reading about free will, about compatibilism. Michael Huemer certainly is dropping takes in this one. I'm sure he's going to get torn to pieces in the book club. But I don't know. I'm not... Jackalope. Jackalope is my favorite mythical creature. Relax with Russell ASMR. Thanks so much for the super chat. Pascal's wager seems like a really bad argument to me if you think about it for more than 5 seconds. Am I tripping? I think there's like problems with it. I think like some of the things people think are problems with it maybe aren't, but you know, there is something there, right? You know, there's like infinity expected value to like not getting tortured. So if there's even like any possibility at all then like automatically infinity value is what you expect to gain. Anyway, it's been good. It's been great even. All right, I love all of you. Have a great time. I'm not sure if I have anything else to do, any other obligations. Ali, thanks so much for the gifted sub, and welcome to the community, Rooklessy. All right,